morning and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 142nd take live from the HF Barcelona studios of Euless, Texas. I'm your host, Bear Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. A trio of gentlemen have joined us tonight, and it's going to be an epic, epic show celebrating none other than my birthday. So this is going to be awesome for me. I was really excited to get these guys together. But before we get into formal introductions, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible, of course, and that is our sponsors. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate announced earlier this week that they will donate $50,000 to Operation Cigars for Warriors during its virtual Barn Smoker live event, which will be broadcast directly from the Florida Sun-Grown Farm in Claremont, Florida on Drew Estate's Facebook page on November 14th. Due to the COVID-19, Drew Estate canceled the 5 barn smoker events that were planned for 2020 in Connecticut, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, and Florida. But instead, Drew Estate has now decided to bring the barn to the people, announcing its Barn Smoker Goodwill Act, through which Drew Estate will fully refund all barn smoker ticket holders, send each of them all the incredible swag that they would have received if they had been able to attend, and decided to showcase a virtual barn smoker open to all adults free of charge. So tune in on November 14th for their virtual barn smoker event brought to you by Drew Estate. Tonight's show is also sponsored by Oveja Negra Brands, 4 unique companies who share a passion to provide innovative cigars for the next generation of cigar enthusiasts. Black Label Trading Company, Blackwork Studio, Dissident, and Emilio are combining premium tobacco with an artisanal touch. Oveja Negra, where art and tobacco collide. Join the flock and visit ovejanegracigars.com to learn more. And welcome to our 142nd take. It is my privilege to welcome in these gentlemen tonight for my special birthday take. So without further ado, tonight's guests are sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today. Start living united. Misters Will Cooper, Jon Carney, Miguel Schoedel. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me on the show. Happy birthday to you. Happy to be on the show, obviously with you, Bear, Coop, and always the chef himself, Jon Carney.
I love how there's a slight pause because everyone just assumed that I was going to be the first person to talk. I made a point. I'm like, I'm not going to say anything, and he goes first. And there's like 2 or 3 seconds. I was like, everyone was waiting.
I was looking at you. And I was like, okay, he's not moving. He's not moving.
But no, Bear, thank you for having us on. Happy birthday. Looking forward to the show. I've been excited for it all day. I'd normally be asleep by now here on the East Coast, but we're going to stay up and we're going to celebrate. So I do feel like, however, for the last 6 months, a theme of my life has been crown heads. Everything that I do has somebody with crown heads involved in it, which is awkward. And I'm sure it's kind of the reverse, but it's good people. It's a good relationship to be a part of. So we continue it on for the birthday celebration.
Yeah, Bear. Happy birthday. And thanks for having me on. You know, there's a connection, I think, with all of us. Just kind of on a special edition show, Bear, that you are a partner on, and actually Jon does our Super Bowl show every year, and Miguel does our baseball show. So I think this was a great group to assemble here. Plus, they, like I said, they're great guys that represent great companies on top of that. So it's a win-win. So this is great.
Yeah, so the idea of the trio that I selected here, so Coop and you are as big of a part of this as anything. I'm so privileged to be in the position that I'm in and hosting this great show and talking to the great guests that I talk to every week. And what this opportunity, as well as my position at Michaels, has really allowed me to build not just great relationships, but truly and authentic friendships in this industry. And that number is in itself is too large to count. So I couldn't have everyone I consider a dear and close friend on tonight. But I selected the 3 of you, for a very, very close and personal reasons. And Coop, you've been supportive of this idea, this show from day one. You've brought me in as a partnership on Special Edition, and that's been terrific. Jon I'm surprised we're still friends, considering the fact that, you know, I was a LFD super fan when he met me, still am, and he never ran away from me. So, you know, even though I probably frightened him at first, you know, first glance. But and Miguel and I actually met on this show. You know, we didn't know each other from Adam, and then we started bonding over weird things like, you know, love of presidents and strange, you know, vintage baseball memorabilia, and, you know, things like that. And then, you know, we just developed a really nice friendship as well. So it's it's really it's really incredible that cigars have brought us all together, but then we share these unique, you know, kinships over, you know, very specific and unique things that have made me friends with you all. So I thank you for all agreeing to be on the show. I'm really excited to have you guys.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So I mean,
I'm dying over here, guys. I'm in my car, and I was gonna start the show and try to set the mood with some smoke in the background. It's a rental car, and I can't hotbox the thing. I'm literally about to pass out, so I had to open the windows. Whew.
There's a little Cheech and Chong going on over there.
Yeah, and also my lighter's dead, so I got the cigar lit, which is perfect. But if I'm gonna smoke another one, I'm gonna have to continuously keep this lit. So yeah, I'm struggling already on your birthday. Your birthday's hitting me real hard, Bear. Hit me real hard.
Yeah. See, and then this is why. I mean, I would only ask true friends to do it, and clearly you are, Jon. So thank you so much. I appreciate the sacrifice. Clearly, there is no joking in this statement at all of what you're going through today. So I appreciate it. And you've been traveling. This is like your seventh state in 7 days too, right? Coop's done 7 podcasts in 7 days. You've done seven states in 7 days, right?
So I saw Coop posted that, and I've been on the road now for 3 weeks. And I saw you posted the 7 podcasts in 7 days, and I started doing so because I'm in 5 and 5 days. Sorry, 5 and 6 days. But I've actually been in, let's see, I've been in 9 states in the last 10 days. So
Wow.
it's been interesting, and it hasn't been a normal routine. So people say, "Oh, like I heard you were here." Like I wasn't able to hit all these accounts. It was, you know, we did some little events, had some things set up. So I jumped around quite a bit to kind of get a lay of the land. And I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised. You know, I live down in Miami, and I also spent all of COVID at my family's place up in Maine. And where I'm at in Maine, it's pretty much back to normal to an extent, minus, you know, going to the grocery store and stuff like that. In Miami, it was locked down, but Florida's now 100% open. The one thing I've been surprised the most about, which I think is a good thing, you know, it's up for debate some other time, I guess, of how extreme this really is or whatnot. But it's a real thing. But I'm surprised at how cautious some of these states are. And I talked to you about that, Bear, when we were hanging out in Euless. I was like, I was surprised at how cautious things are around Dallas and how uncertain things are in the different markets that I've been to. So that's been one of the more interesting things in those last 10, 11, 12 days. And last 3 weeks has been how each area is so different, and the mentality of business and what's able to do and whatnot is really interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting to talk about that dynamic about different places and everything. And I know Coop actually did 2 days in a row of leaving the compound a couple weeks ago, I think, for the first time since March.
This week.
Oh, this week. Okay, since March.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was very, very good. I actually met, but I interacted with people, which was interesting because on Tuesday I went to see a very old friend of mine, which we just got together to smoke at his house after work. So I did that, and then on Friday, I ventured up to Tailored Smoke, and I really wanted to meet this guy face to face, Mickey Pegg of All Saints Cigars. He's a terrific guy. Yeah, Mickey's a great guy.
I worked for Mickey for many years.
Yeah, and he said very good things, obviously, and his cigars are really good too that he's got. But he's a very, very interesting. He's got a lot of history in the business, so he's got some great stories.
That's awesome. What, Miguel? What about you? I know you've been doing some traveling and everything. What about where you call home? Is it? And I know it's in Florida, but it's not Miami, is it?
No, I live over near Fort Myers, and it's very mixed. You go to the grocery store, you have to have masks on. A lot of stores, you've got to have masks on. Then you go to other businesses, and nobody's wearing a mask. I mean, it's to kind of echo what John was saying is that you think 50 states are probably 50 different rules, but it's really town by town has their own rules. So you're in one area and it's super cautious. You have another area it's very relaxed, and everyone's kind of got their own take on it. Every city council, every town, every city has their own kind of take on what's happening out there. I've done some traveling. I was gone for, I think it was like 14 days at one point. We were doing the trade shows. And then I made a trip to South Dakota where nobody was wearing masks at all. And so, I see it out there. It's a mix out there, but it is like John was saying, it depends on where you're at, man. You could be in 9 states in 9 days and run into 20 different rules. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I think everybody wants everything to kind of go back to normal. I don't know when that'll happen, but I'm very cautious for myself just because I'm a diabetic, and I've had some health issues over the years. So I'm always very careful for myself and try to respect other people. But it's tough out there, man. Just you want to respect other people, but you also, want to represent your rights as American, and so it's tough.
It is.
I got a good one. I got a good one that happened this week. This really got me. It's funny. So I'm getting on the airplane and we're in the jet bridge, and there's this lady in front of me, and we get up to the front of the jet bridge and we're just about to board, and she turns around. I'm maybe like 3 feet behind her, and she turns around and she goes, "Could you please give me some distance?" So I said, "Okay." So I backed up. We were like 4 feet from getting onto the airplane. Like, lady, you're about to board a germ torpedo with me.
Yeah.
and she was sitting, ready for this? She was sitting next to me.
Oh, it's
she
even
was
better.
6 inches away from me, and she's worried about this. Like, if you're worried about distance, I'm going to tell you,
you probably should have got on the plane.
Probably not your thing.
Exactly.
And yeah. So like, I've coined the phrase now. It's a germ torpedo, and they clean them and stuff now. It's great, but they obviously didn't do it before. But yeah, I was sitting there, I'm like, am I missing something here? Like, you're about to get in this airplane. This is the last breath of fresh air you and I've got for 2.5 hours, sweetheart.
I thought I really thought I knew where this story was going. I thought she was going to get up to like the entrance of the plane, and where there's that gap between the tunnel and the door. Like, I thought she was going to take off her mask and take like one long breath of fresh air before she got on. I thought I knew where the story was going. So
I'm waiting for people to bring on a little plant with them on a plane to get some fresh air, man. It's a little crazy out there.
And it really is. So, but in speaking of take here, I'm interested to get your thoughts on what everyone's smoking tonight. I'll kick us off. I've got 2 cigars lined up for tonight. I'm lighting up the Robusto MXS Tiago splitter from Ace Prime, which of course is distributed by Crown Heads. Miguel. Sure. So this cigar's for you. And then this my second cigar is very special to me. And it's special because I get to share it with the guest tonight, and when that is the La Flor Dominicana DL700 Natural. So as our guest John knows, last year he was actually in town for the first shift back at Michael's after Jacob, my son, was born, who of course my son celebrated his first birthday yesterday. So we have birthdays 2 days apart, and so John was in town for my first shift back at Michael's, and my groomsmen for my wedding gifted me a box of DL700 Naturals, and this isn't from that box, but I designated that box for milestone events, and I smoked a 10-year-old, 9-year-old at that time, 9-year-old Natural with John that night, and that was so this is an homage to that memory, John, and I'll be lighting that up here momentarily. So
that's really what cigars are all about, man. Connect them to a memory, connect them to a situation like that. That's incredible.
So what did Miguel, you had a lineup ready for this. What did you light up first?
I just finished a Pichardo San Andreas Reserva Familiar, and then I just sat that one down and I just lit up a Mil Diaz at Mugo size. I've got other cigars. I got Headley Grange La Coalición and Luciano Lancero. I've got a bunch of cigars, so who knows where it'll go. Nice
little buffet there to go for. John, what did you decide to light up today?
So the Mil Diaz, I smoked that on Friday. I actually had lunch with Brian McGee in Birmingham, Alabama. And he'd given me a Mil Diaz. I hadn't had that yet. It was very, very good. I enjoyed it. It was very
Thank you,
nice.
sir.
It's totally your wheelhouse
I
too, John, because we talked
It
about your
was.
palate the other day.
Yeah, it was like right in my wheelhouse. It was medium bodied. It was spiced, but it wasn't like front of the palate spice. I thought it was really smooth. It was a good smoke. It was so good that I'm smoking another cigar tonight, but something different. No, I've got the 25th anniversary. This is again, it's funny he was saying right in my wheelhouse. It's medium bodied, smooth, clean on the palate.
Beautiful band on that.
Yeah. Not a lot of flavor changes on it. I like cigars that mature in intensity, but I don't like the crazy flavor changes. So medium bodied stuff for me. This 25th anniversary is perfect. It's complex all the way through. I've got a couple things on the floor here. I'm in this rental car. It's a kind of a mess. I've got a computer. I got bottles of water. I got masks all over the place. I couldn't find my phone.
For the life of me, I
So
thought
I-
you were going to say bottles of wine.
So I ripped this bag apart, and now there's cigars all over the place. So I got a petite level Cata that I'll probably have, and then I've got a Cameroon cabinet, number 2 from
Very
about
pretty.
6-7 years ago.
Oh, I was going to
Little
say, is that
baby
from the age
torpedo.
stash that you gave us the other day? Oh, nice.
Yeah. Coincidentally, I still have those cigars from when I saw you last, and they're still not humidified. So this should be a pleasant treat. But no, I started with the 25th anniversary. This is my first cigar of the day as well. So
Nice. Coop, would you light up?
Well, Bear, it's your birthday, right? And I said, well, I could do something really nice for you and smoke a Lancero. All right. But I didn't do that. Right?
So you lit up a
But
Gordo.
I went I went with a Lonsdale. I went with the numero uno.
Oh, nice.
By way to Nicaragua. Really, it's a very good cigar and excellent representation in the Lonsdale format. I think I'll mention just 2 things. I did smoke the just beforehand. I smoked the Tiago Splitter MXS, which you were smoking.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really curious to get your thoughts as you're smoking that, because I really, really like that cigar a lot. So yeah, I'm curious on your thoughts. And then, just the other thing I'll mention is I finally got around a couple weeks ago to smoking the small batch number 7s, John. And you guys haven't missed a beat with that series, as I'm just telling you. That number 7 was incredible. Yeah, I think I was messaging you, Bear, on that too. I said, have you smoked this yet? I'm like,
Yeah.
so
you know how you can tell, like, when a cigar, like, so the small batch line is a cigar where you usually run into people where they're like, oh, I like the 2 instead of the 3, or I like the 4 better than the 3, and I like the 5 better than the 2.
right.
Or I like the 1 and then this. From the last 2 releases, I've stopped hearing, and this could be for a couple of reasons, but I've stopped hearing, oh, I like this one better than that, or I like the 3 better than the 7. I haven't heard that as much, and it's maybe because people are running out of small batch 1s, 2s, and 3s from their private stash.
Probably
and they can't tell what it is anymore. They can't compare it. But I think you're right on it. Like, it's, when I see a cigar like that, it's a series of essentially a vintage crop, vintage product. When people stop comparing it to the others, seem to do it less often. It's, you seem like you're hitting it really well. So so no, I'd agree. I had one this weekend too. I hadn't had one for probably 5 or 6 months. Really good smoke, so I appreciate that. You had actually just reviewed something that I enjoyed recently, which shocked me, because I'm very rarely like shocked by a cigar anymore. That Ambassador from the McAuliffe that you just reviewed was a really good cigar.
Oh, it's the best cigar they've done.
Hands down, and it's their least expensive.
It's at least expensive. They really. I got to smoke the unnamed release, and I knew they were onto something with that. And they didn't. It was consistent when they came out with it. That McAuliffe is that just went up today. A really good cigar.
The name threw me off though, because they came out with the McAuliffe, and I thought,
and it's not the A size.
Well,
they're doing
and I think because
of
of this cigar, literally, because this is the Ambassador technically, is what, and I don't think they could use the name Ambassador. And
there's like 3 companies that gave him a hard time. There's like 3 companies that gave him a hard time about using the word Ambassador. So they just use
I
that.
could
Hey, give them all the credit in the world. They didn't print any bands, so you know what? I mean,
No, but
they're a
they
step above other people.
But where I give them a lot of credit, and I really like the way they kind of operate, is they told their ambassadors up from, hey, we want you guys to pick the name, but understand we have to go through a validation process
Right.
with trademark. So certainly you guys will have an input into it. And we're going to take into consideration what you're doing. And I think it was there's a lot of ambassador programs out there. McAuliffe's done it as good as any company has done it with their ambassadors, how they work with them, and it's an integral part of their business strategy.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Coop. That's actually going to lead into a question I'm going to be asking later on in the show a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. So great
Yep.
mini segue there for me. But I think what's really interesting about this, the cigars that we're all smoking tonight is that I think it's really great that we still love cigars so much that we dabble in like different types. Like our palates are pretty much all over the place. Like, Jon works for a company who's known for these powerhouse in your face cigars, and he can appreciate them as much as anybody. But he really likes those what we're talking about, the 25th anniversary, the Mil Diaz, that medium bodied, really nuanced, complex smoke. And I think it's really awesome that we can all appreciate the spectrum as much as we all do, which is really cool. So on that note, and we talked about, we're talking about smoking and the fine traditions that it holds and everything. So I'm interested not to be on too on the nose, but to kick us off for my birthday shows, I was curious to hear about your birthday traditions growing up. We all kind of grew up, in different parts of the country. We all have different backgrounds, for the most part and everything. So I'm interested to hear your traditions growing up and your birthday. And this is the yearly reminder, and it's apropos that Jon Carney is on my show. That Jon Carney is the vice president of one of my favorite brands in the industry, and he's younger than me, and I still have to wonder what I'm doing with my life. But that being said, we'll kick it off with you, Jon. What what were some of your traditions growing up for your birthday?
I mean, sometimes, Bear, I'm trying to figure what the hell I'm doing with my life. So you're doing just fine. Man, my biggest tradition for my birthday, all but 6 of my birthdays in my entire existence, all but 6 have been at Walt Disney World.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's, yeah. So all but 6. So I'm still to this day, I'm there for my birthday every year. It's changed a little bit. We're not going to Chef Mickey's anymore with all the characters and stuff. We're going out to like Jose Andres' place and drinking wine and whatnot. But yeah, that's for me is the glaring tradition. It's just I've always been there. I said all but 6 of my birthdays.
That's really awesome. So
Wow.
that started with your parents, or?
So my birthday is February 23rd, which up north is a winter vacation. You have a week off for winter vacation. So every year we'd go down in February and April for a week of vacation. I mean, I grew up in the restaurant business. So when families were gone, that was kind of a good time for us to go to. This business was a little slower in our little town because people were off doing things. So yeah, we went down every year in February, and it always fell that 3rd week of February was always the winter break. And yeah, so we'd go down every single year in February, and we started doing that when I was probably 4 or 5. And then over the years, there was probably 2 years in high school that we didn't go in February because I was playing basketball. And then I've only missed maybe one since I was like 18 or 19. So every year I've hit it. So it's been cool. Yeah, it was fun. We just started doing it. And I mean, my family owns a timeshare down there at Disney. So it was just a tradition. It was a vacation, and it just always happened to be around the time my birthday was there. My parents now spend time down there for a few months a year. My sister and my niece and brother-in-law spend a bit of time down there. And I lived in Orlando for 9 years. That made it really easy when I went to college in Orlando. And then when I worked for Disney, that was super easy. So there was like 9 years that it was kind of like a layup. But the last few years I would consider slam dunks. Like I've had to come from afar to make it happen.
Wait, you worked for Disney? How did I miss that?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my longest job actually prior to working for the Flor Dominicana. I worked for Disney for about 3 years. I worked at Pirates of the Caribbean originally, and I was in merchandise.
I was gonna say, tell me you were a pirate. Like,
Yeah, matey. Yeah, so I worked at Pirates, and it was all at Adventureland, what it was, and then we worked parades. I used to sell little glow toys. I mean, one time I dressed up in glow toys, like those little like neon necklaces and stuff. So I had them hanging off of me, and I walked out to the front of the park to like sell some stuff to the people that were out front. They wouldn't let me back in the park because I didn't have my proper ID with me. And I'm like, I'm dressed in white knickers, wearing pinstripe shirt, and like one of those golfer hats. I go, and I'm covered in glowing toys. And by the way, I have $8,000 cash in my pocket because you did.
this
all
is like early
cash.
2000s, John. They just probably thought you were going to a rave, right? You know?
Yeah. You never know. But yeah, no, I worked for them for 3 years. I did that, and then I was a bellman and valet for 2 years. That was one of the best jobs I ever had. The Disney squashed that one real quick. I was 21 years old. I made like $60,000 working like 3 days a week, and it was all cash, dude. No tax. It was ridiculous.
Nice.
But yeah, Disney squashed that. They outsourced it, and that ruined that. And then that was right when I graduated college, and I got into I continued on in the restaurant business.
Oh, beautiful. So Miguel, what about you?
Nothing crazy, man. My family, birthdays are, just kind of another day. Now that I'm a father, it's very different. I get really excited for my kids' birthdays. They're both in the summer. And so for me, not really traditions, but my 30th birthday, I remember my wife and I took a little vacation together. It was the only vacation we've ever done by ourselves without our kids. And we're big about bringing our kids on every vacation. We never go anywhere. We always go, take our kids everywhere we go. If we go to a fancy restaurant on Valentine's Day, we bring our kids. They go everywhere with us. I think they're well adjusted because of that. But on my 30th birthday, my wife took me for a vacation. It was just her and I, and she gave me a really nice watch. And so that birthday will always kind of stay in my mind. This year I turned 40, so that was 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And just very blessed, man, very blessed. This year was weird because it was COVID. So we really didn't go out to any restaurants or anything. But it's so funny. John can probably relate to this, but as you get older, it almost seems like on your birthday, you're manning the grill on your own birthday, you know what I mean? And you're cooking for everybody else. So it's exciting, I think, for kids' birthdays. But at 40 years old, let's get some good steak, some good chicken, some good fish, and some lobster tails. Let's throw them on the grill and crack open a beautiful bottle of wine. So
beautiful.
I think it's I think the older I get, it's more about celebrating every year in good health, man. But it's exciting. I know, Bear, you just turned 37. As you get older and your kids are getting older, you find that it's less about what you want and more about what they want, and so it's a lot of fun, man.
It certainly is, and we're gonna get into more birthdays here in a second. Everything. I had John been in town a week later than he was. He was in town last week. I contemplated hiring him to actually make me a steak. I've been dying for a good steak, and so I know John makes them better than any place where I could actually go and buy one for the most part. So, but say la vie, he's back up in the Pine Tree State. So, Coop, what about you? Growing up, different era, not and then note all age joking aside,
Right.
a slightly little bit of a generation. We got 10 years
Right.
on some of us. So,
Right.
so what birthday tradition growing up? What was it like in the Coop household?
Okay, so a lot of people know I'm Roman Catholic, but a lot of people may not know that my dad's family is Jewish. And what interesting is my birthday is December 5th. So you picture when December 5th happens, it's not that December is like better than the lottery as a kid, because you had Christmas, Hanukkah, and my birthday.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, and it was always cool when it fell on Hanukkah. It was like, I think it hit twice on my birthday for Hanukkah. And you think, well, and it wasn't like I got gypped or anything. It was the opposite. I made out really good as a kid with that. So it was always fun spending birthdays and holidays with my dad's side of the family in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. I have some of my greatest memories. I have stories, and from when we got together as a family on my birthday, just some of the wacky stuff that would happen, and so those memories are just like they're really precious to me. When those days when that happened for sure. As you get older, it changes, right? I kind of got a little more into my solitude when I got into my 40s, where I just kind of enjoyed just being where I am right now, being by myself and smoking. I don't want to ignore my family or anything, but certainly I always liked my solitude with that. And then birthdays 50 and 51 were rough. I'll just kind of say that those were rough birthdays. I don't want to repeat. So
I mean,
52 was good.
an often known fact is, often not known fact is that Coop is also 1/17th African. His Kwanzaa gift stories from the past are incredible.
Amazing. Amazing.
My sister did run the DNA test to figure that one out, and we did not come up, unfortunately, with that.
Oh,
And
I must have got that news from somewhere else.
And well,
No.
Coop is from New York as well, and he has Jewish heritage. And despite that fact, he and I still hate Seinfeld together. We think.
Oh, we can't. We hate Seinfeld.
So we don't celebrate Festivus either. So
that's not even that's a made up holiday.
A holiday about nothing.
Yeah, made about nothing. Absolutely.
I think that as you get older. As you get older, you kind of, and I'm with you, Coop, man. It really is one of those things. When I get older, it's like, here's a book I want on Amazon. I'm gonna hang out on the patio. We're gonna grill, but I'm gonna have a couple hours to myself, just hanging out on the patio, maybe drinking some really expensive rum that I wouldn't normally buy, and a cigar.
Yeah, I had a rough one for 50 because Mr. Padron died on my birthday, and I was planning on smoking the Padron 50th that night, right? And I don't know. I just said maybe put this one aside. That I don't know. I just kind of didn't want to put pictures up on social media. I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I'll smoke it next year, right? Mm-hmm. Next year, that's when I got the blood infection. I was just out of the hospital, so I couldn't. So it wasn't until my 52nd birthday when I smoked that Padron 50th I had sitting around. So it took 2 years, and I'll tell you that was a great birthday because I really enjoyed that cigar.
It aged well, so
thankfully. It held up. Yep.
It was interesting growing up as a kid. We really didn't have a lot of money, and I only actually had 2 birthday parties as a kid growing up. And I remember one of them, it was when I was in first grade, and my entire class came, and got a lot of Ninja Turtle and G.I. Joe stuff, which was awesome. But one of my best friend's mothers bought me a jean jacket. And I wore the shit out of that jean jacket, man. And that thing was in shreds by the time I was done with it. And it was just the coolest gift. But it was interesting. My mother and father still feel guilty about it. Here I am in my mid 30s. They feel like they didn't give me a lot of the childhood norms because we just couldn't afford some stuff. And I just remember baking my birthday cake a lot with my mother, and she would always ask me. I had the same birthday cake several years in a row. She made, I don't know if you guys remember this. I don't know if you guys even, it was a school bus birthday cake. The wheels were, like Oreos, the grill was a vanilla wafer, and it was like the like part of like the standard like Better Homes cookbook, thing. And I just loved it. I thought it was so cool. And even though I couldn't eat parts of it, I didn't really care. It was just really, but I just thought it was a lot of fun, and I always helped her make it. And those are the things that I remember. And, my father would always do something. We would go hit, we couldn't afford to go to the driving range. So we would go hit golf balls at the local school or shoot hoops or something like that. And it was just, those are the things that I remember. And I loved my childhood. And yeah, I didn't have a lot of birthday parties growing up, but I have a lot of other memories from my birthday that are a lot of fun and everything, including on my 18th birthday when I had my very first cigar. So
nice.
I mean, you can't beat that with the stick, because that led us to all 4 of us being here today. So I'll take that one all day long as a great memory growing up with. So
yep.
So good times. We'll get to more birthday stuff here in a little bit, but we're gonna kick off the show tonight's major point, and as always on ELOSOFUMARTAKES, the major point for tonight is brought to you by Wood Butcher, Maine, introducing durable and attractive wooden creations to your kitchen, backyard grill, and home using native Maine wood and other exotic wood species. Wood Butcher Maine products include butcher blocks, cutting boards, coasters, grill grate cleaners, and of course the LFD favorite, the red oak cigar ashtray and cocktail coaster, plus many more. The Wood Butcher Maine's team passion for food, the pine tree state, and craftsmanship of the highest quality show in absolutely every piece. Visit woodbutchermaine.com. Yes, that's woodbutchermaine.com to explore the current collection, including cribbage boards, right, John?
Cribbage boards.
Cribbage
Yeah, I
boards.
think the cribbage boards are now sold out, but there's some more being produced. But yeah, cribbage boards, man. Yeah, Aaron started doing some cribbage boards, and they look freaking great. I don't even know how to play cribbage. Neither
But now
does,
you want
neither
to.
does the neither
I
does the
play
wood
it for
butcher
40
though.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't even know how to play this, but he goes, it's weird. I get people that want cribbage boards, and yeah,
When-
there you go. But yeah, so keep an
John,
eye out for wood butcher.
when I worked at CAO, we had two guys on the team, Frank Cap and Strom Farberic, rest in peace. Every trade show, the first day after setup, we'd get there days before, obviously, before the show. Everyone would always pile into their room and watch them play cribbage. It was like the weirdest. I've never played it. I watched them play it, but cribbage was a big deal. I never heard of that until I got in the cigar industry.
It was big in the late 70s. I remember my family playing it like 78, 79. But it kind of just fell out of favor, I think. And I don't know if it's getting a resurgence now. I'm hearing more about it. I haven't heard cribbage games in years. So
I hope he does bring some back, because I was actually gonna. She doesn't watch the show, so it's not gonna be a not surprise for her. My wife loves cribbage, and I was thinking about it as a Christmas present. So
Yeah, he's definitely making more. And he's definitely doing that. And it's so there'll be more up. There'll be more up on there. But yeah, that maybe there's a revival in the cigar industry of the cribbage game.
absolutely.
John,
Backgammon.
you certainly make, yeah.
Go ahead.
John, I think you, with the partnership you've been doing with these guys, you made cutting boards like cool in the cigar industry, right? So think about like you guys did this, right? And then what happens? Abe and Saka come out with a cutting board, right? Camacho did something with one recently. So I think you've kind of
That was a Wood
made
Butcher
these
Maine
really
product.
cool in the cigar.
That was the
Yes,
Camacho
that's
board is
right.
Wood Butcher Maine. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yep.
Brian
Yep.
McGee.
So yeah, we got. It said there's some more plans with it. Things with Wood Butcher. There's some things that we're doing internally at LFD too, and yeah, cutting board. It's funny because when the Wood Butcher stuff started being exposed to the cigar business through my relationship with Aaron, I had tons of people come out of the woodwork like, "Oh, I want you to make this. I want you to make that," and I'm like, I'm trying to sell these things with either a Hacking Gourmet logo or an LFD logo on it. I'm like, and you're friends with all the same people that I am on Facebook. I'm like, this is like, no. I go like, they're gonna buy one or two boards. I go, and hopefully they're gonna buy it from me.
Yeah. Brian McGee sent everyone on the team last year cutting boards, and they're beautiful. They have our name in them, but I got to tell you, it's too pretty. You don't want to use it. You know what I mean? Like I have mine in my kitchen. I don't even want to use the thing. It's too pretty. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that they really are fantastic, and so with that, tonight's major point is talking about a major announcement actually. So speaking of announcements on Wood Butcher Maine, I have a major announcement for ELOSOFUMARTAKES. So this major announcement has actually been inspired by a couple of our guests tonight in a couple of different ways. So Coop, which we'll talk about here in a second. There's a lot of different shows out there. I partner with you on Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition. Miguel has hosted a show for the last few months as well. John's been on several shows, and he started Hacking Gourmet, a fantastic different show as well. And we all have found successful, I feel like, our kind of our niche, what kind of sets us apart, even though we're talking about similar things, John probably being the only really true digression off of the complete cigar chat kind of concept. But Coop, you kind of labeled my show a long time ago, and I've kind of run with it. It's the podcast that kind of humanizes the cigar industry, and I've really taken great pride in that mantra that you've bestowed upon me, and I've kind of run with it. And so you guys might have, and to our audience, you guys probably noticed on the advertisements for this week's show that that there was something a little bit different. And I threw up the fact that this tonight's show, we were going to also be raising money for the ASPCA. And so tonight's major announcement is that going forward on ELOSOFUMARTAKES, I'm going to be asking my guest for that week if he or she or them would like to raise awareness for a nonprofit. And that will be the dedication for that week. We will be raising money for their nonprofit of choice. And I reserve the right to boycott only one. I won't say the organization on air, but I reserve the right to only boycott one. But other than that, I'm totally open to bringing attention to charities and nonprofits that maybe I don't necessarily align or agree with for the most part. Like I said, I reserve the right for one boycott, which is one that my wife and I agreed on, just because I told her about the concept and she said, you can't let anyone pick this organization. I said, yeah, I'm with that. So that's cool. But other than that, I think it's going to be a really great opportunity for, again, to really explore the human side of our industry, allowing my guests to bring attention to something that they're really passionate about aside from the cigar industry. So I'm really excited about it. And this week I chose the charity to kind of kick us off. And as some of you may know, and some of our audience may know, a couple of months ago, I lost my family dog. And Maya, she had been with me since I graduated from college. I rescued her, as I was often fond of saying. She rescued me when I was just a recent graduate from college. And I really, while I had plenty of friends, she became my roommate and my best friend for years. And it was, of course, very sad when we had to say goodbye to her. Um, and um, and the ASPCA, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, is a fantastic organization. They not only rescue animals from horrendous situations, but they also really strive to find permanent and perfect homes for dogs and for cats and for other animals. And it's really an organization. They bring to light the fact that every year, guys, every year 1.5 million dogs and cats are having to be put down. um, and because you can't find homes for everybody, but yet more and more people are giving up animals and just leaving them on the street. There's countless of homeless animals. This organization started in New York, which you guys can probably imagine is a huge hotbed for for homeless animals, as well as homeless people as well, and everything. But it's a truly fantastic organization. Their measures and strives to for non-kill shelters and making and finding permanent places for rescued animals. It really speaks to my heart. And so for tonight, I thought it would be a really great idea to raise money for the ASPCA. So you guys noticed on the advertisements, if you want to go back in the Facebook feed, there's a donate button. If you guys feel so called, would really encourage you guys to donate money to a fantastic organization that's dedicated to saving the lives of not just millions of animals, but placing them in homes permanently so they can enrich in our lives, just like Maya did for mine over the last almost 20 years. And I just thought it would be a really nice tribute for her, what she did for me, and for this going forward with this show. So that's what tonight's major announcement is. Um, so I'd like to open up the discussion with maybe a little bit more heartfelt. We don't want to talk about animals dying, but
Well,
do you all have a family pet, or
well,
did you guys grow up with animals? Like Miguel, what about you?
well, it's something. It's a great organization, and definitely I'll make a donation tonight after the show. I think it's a great organization, and I always think it's great when you have any kind of platform. Either you be a celebrity, either you be a cigar celebrity, either you whatever you may be. I think it's always honorable when you try to help other people, and I think that's part of being a good person is trying to help out other people, right? I can tell you, I never had a family dog. My wife grew up in a lot of inner cities, and dogs were always more of a protection for your house. They were outdoor dogs. But we just decided as a family that we're getting a dog. So we have adopted a dog, and we'll take that dog the first week of December. And we've never had a family dog, and it's a tradition that so many people have had. Obviously, Bear, you've talked about your experience with a dog. That's not something my family's ever done. And so this will be our first family dog. My daughter's 15, my son is 13. And so we're going to start that tradition. And it's something that we're very excited. And we did a lot of searching. We did look for a lot of different organizations. And so we're jumping into the family dog thing. We've never done it before. Jon, up north, did you guys, I'm thinking up north, I think of hunting and just seems like everyone in the cigar industry has a pet dog, you know?
I mean, most of the animals that I interact with in my life, I killed and ate.
Thanks for the levity, Jon.
I thought you were going to ask for like what charity, and I was like, charity or nonprofit. I was fine. I was like, Hacking Gourmet is certainly a no profit and very much a charity venture. So no, I was an athlete growing up, and so I traveled a lot for games and sports, and we owned 3 businesses. So we didn't have pets. We had, I had a fish. I had a couple fish. But my uncle's family had family dogs. So those were like our family dogs. So they had, we had a collie, golden retriever, black lab, another collie. So I was always around dogs. And then now my really close friend Matt, his dogs are like family members to me. He's got 2 German shepherds that are awesome. So yeah, I'm a big dog fan. I'm not so big on cats. I'm allergic to them, but cat lives matter. So they're important too. But yeah, my biggest charity thing. I think this is great that you're doing something like that. It's good to make anything's an impact, right? So if you have a public forum where you can, get it out that something that's positive and has an impact on people's lives, because really pets have an impact on people's lives. Your dog, as you said, it's like they are your best friends. So it's a really special thing. But for me, Wounded Warriors has always been the big one for me, is because those people that defend our rights and our freedoms and the Constitution in regards to keeping us safe, they allow me to do what I'm doing, sitting outside with my windows open in the middle of the night, having a cigar with you guys. So that's always been a big one for me. But pets play such a major role in people's lives in terms of mental health, bringing family together. They become part of your family. So they're obviously, pets are a very special thing to the world, and something that if we can make their lives better, makes our lives better.
I'm excited. Well, but Coop, I know you didn't really grow up with a lot of animals, and you didn't have one as a family. You just had kids.
Well, yeah. My parents got a dog when I was in college, right? So I really didn't have to care for the dog or anything. And then we had kids, and then I'm on the road a lot. Well, we do like to travel, my wife and I. So, we always felt it would be unfair to the animal if we had to leave, and maybe be a little unfair to us as well. But we love animals. Like, I love dogs. I mean, it always seems like everyone's dog finds me and wants to like snuggle up with me, or just kind of go under my feet or something. Yeah.
True story. We were outside of Corona in Tampa, and some random dog just like came up to Coop and was just all over him. All over him. True story.
And when I stayed at the Debonair house, the same thing happened with the dogs that were at the Debonair house when I was down at Pro Cigar. They just came up to me, and they would just. It's not like I was giving them food or anything, but so I love that. It's kind of one of those things. I like being the uncle to someone's dog. Is I think the best thing to do. What I will say is the ASPCA, I'm familiar with that organization. That growing up in New York, it's a great organization. You picked a very good charity. They do some great work, and so this is a very good cause. I think good job by you, Bear, on this as well. Like I said, and the cigar industry is really good about like supporting causes, and it's all genuine, is what I find.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And I want to give a special nod to Oliver Nouveau, who's we all know, the head of sales for United Cigar. He was the first person to chime in with a donation when I posted that on there. So he had no idea about this announcement. So he's the first one. So I'd give him a special nod, donating to, like I said, a great organization. So I'm really excited to be spotlighting nonprofits and charities going forward for our guests and having them talk about it, and what's meaningful to them in their lives and everything, and as we kind of go forward with LFD Fumar takes. So, It's a special nod to you, Coop, for the mantra that you kind of bestowed upon my show, and it was actually kind of believe it or not, Miguel, it was spearheaded off of a conversation that you and I and Luciano Meireles of Ace Prime were having on our show, and then actually later off the record about just giving back and things like that. And it just got my wheels turning even back then. And I was like, well, what, how can I do this? How can, and and Facebook of all things gave me the opportunity this week, when I was posting the ad for the show, I finally noticed that, donate button on there. I was like, you know what? I want to see if ASPCA is on here. And sure enough, I mean, thousands of charities are on Facebook that you can bring attention to, and you can always put a link in there too. So I was like, okay, well, this is it. This is going to be it for going forward. I'm going to allow my guests to talk about what's meaningful to them, and we're gonna spend some time every week chatting about it. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm glad that you guys are enthusiastic about it as well. And sounds like some people in the audience are really jazzed about it too. So.
I think it's, great. We do a lot of interviews. I mean, I see Jon doing interviews all the time. I'm doing a lot of these shows, and we talk about cigars. We live the cigar industry. We're passionate about the cigar industry. But I also love when sometimes the conversation can move off of cigars, right? Because sometimes when I'm smoking with people that I know, we're actually not necessarily talking about cigars. We're talking about things in our lives and things we care about. And so I think it's a great opportunity to highlight things that we're all passionate about, that we think about, that's outside of the cigar. The cigar brings us together, and it's good to sometimes to talk about things that are outside of this cigar and the things that move us and the things that we're passionate about, on a daily basis.
For sure. And of course, Cynthia Fuente is actually in the chat, and the Fuente and Newman families with the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation has done extraordinary work in this industry. I mean, so
absolutely.
there's a
great organization,
great nod there as well. And
absolutely
unmatched.
And when I was ironically at the top of the list, when you hit the donate button, Miguel and Coop and Carney, you guys will get a kick out of this. I paused because I was looking for ASPCA, but right at the top of the list was the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. I almost had a moment of pause because I was like, this. No, we're gonna go with the feel good story here.
Let's you Coop the Baseball Hall of Fame thing. You can always do that. You got one shot to hit the heartstrings on the animals.
Yeah, let's do that. So let's get into it. But really excited about this announcement. So I'm glad everyone else is really enthusiastic about it as well. I'm really excited about what it'll bring to the show. So so kind of moving into the show a little bit more about this, guys. We talked at the top of the hour how the pandemic has changed a lot where we are regionally. Jon's been traveling a lot more, Miguel's been traveling a lot more, and they've seen a lot of the differences in regions and everything like that. So for 2020, a bulk of 2020, a lot of us were, finding ourselves doing our job differently, and having to shift or having to change direction and do a lot of different things. So I kind of wanted to kind of take a moment to kind of ask the very broad question. For each of us have a very different perspective on what the pandemic has done to our jobs in the industry specifically. So Miguel, I wanted to start with you here. From a Crowned Heads point of view, Crowned Heads has actually had a pretty successful 2020 in my mind. We talked about the alignment and the strategic partnership with Ace Prime, but what other things did you notice that, changed or allowed you guys to accomplish that probably wouldn't have happened had the pandemic not occurred?
Well, I will tell you that, as a national sales manager, a lot of times things will be passed to me to disseminate to the crew, to the sales team that's on the road, right? And so what we did very early on was we started doing a Zoom every day with our sales force. And obviously my interaction with the sales team is every day. Jon can probably relate to that. We're in charge of our sales team. We talk to our sales guys every day. We're part-time cheerleader. We're part-time strategists trying to keep the team moving. And I will say Crowned Heads has had an absolute stunning 2020 as far as sales and new lines and new launches and limited editions. And we are absolutely blessed. We don't take that, for granted. It has been an incredible year that our Crowned Heads cigar smokers have continued to support us through this crazy pandemic, right? But what we did was we started doing this Zoom every single day, and it has brought our team closer than we have ever been. I'm telling you, Monday through Friday, for at least a half an hour to an hour every day, we get on the phone. John Huber, Mike Connor, the two owners of Crown Heads, and this entire sales team. Sometimes we talk about cigars. Sometimes we're talking about new products. And a lot of times it's just, what are you doing? How's your family? You know, what's going on? And, you know, what are you grilling? You know what I mean? That's been a big conversation. A couple of the new guys on the team got new grills, and it's brought our team closer than we have ever been, which has really been very good to not know your guys just as a sales guy in the time you spend with them on the road, but to understand, you know, their dynamics at home, their what they have in their life outside of the industry. And that single thing has been an absolute blessing on Crown Heads as a company. And it has kept us close together. It has allowed us to weather the storm of COVID 2019 or 2020. And I think it's just made us a better team, you know, because we get together at PCA. We get together for our sales meeting in December or January every year. Now it feels like we've spent more time together and really got to know each other. So sometimes you can take a negative thing. Some people call me one of the more positive guys I've ever met in life. Sometimes it's like the cup is half full at all points in my life.
I'll second that.
Yeah. And so you have to sometimes take the bad that comes along, such as COVID-19. There are people that have passed away. There are people that are sick. Wherever you sit on the COVID thing, but you have to kind of make it the best, right? So I have traveled for almost 20 years in the premium cigar industry, almost for 20 years. I've never spent this much time with my wife or with my kids. And I have absolutely enjoyed every day being able to have dinner with them and do all these things that I know my job and my career is not going to lend me to do in the future always, right? It has done a lot in the past. So I've really taken advantage of spending time with the family and having a closer relationship with sales guys, even though I'm not traveling with them like I did in the past. So you just take the year for what it is, and you contact, the retailers. I've got to know some of my retailers on a different level, where before it was, hey, what do you need? Well, we're doing an event. It's turned into, hey, how's the family? How you feeling? How's everything? It's been incredible. And I love to hear what, John's perspective coming from Flor, but for me, it's taking a negative, turning into a positive, and 2020 will be a year to remember, but it's also a year for me as a team leader to think about how those relationships have gotten even stronger.
You mentioned the PCA trade show though a moment ago, Miguel, and you guys actually participated in one of the. I mean, there were several efforts to create that experience, if you will, as far as industry wide of a trade show-esque light atmosphere, introducing new product, talking with customers, and you were part of the road show, which was partnered with several other companies. What was your experience with that, and how did that go? Was that a success in your mind?
Yes, it was. It was a success for Oliva, for Crown Heads, for Alec Bradley, and for Rocky Patel. It was an opportunity for us to get on the road, bring the trade show to different parts of the country. It was the first time we did it, and as all of us that are involved say, look, we don't want to do this again. We want to do PCA because we're all big supporters of PCA. Some of us sit on the board. We're big supporters of that trade show. And so this year we decided to bring the trade show out. It was a lot of fun. There were certain shows that were bigger turnouts than others, right? We've learned a lot doing it, but overall it was a success for us and we were very happy. And it was just a way to see the retailers, get the retailers out, have some great food, have some cocktails, talk cigars, and smoke together. So it's been a lot of fun. It was a very successful thing, but all of us that are involved look forward to PCA next year.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of this in a second from the Coop perspective, but you actually launched a show as well. We're going to talk about Hacking Gourmet in a second too, but you launched a show as well with, as the aforementioned Luciano Meireles, Bulb, Keep the Lights On and everything, and you started bringing on industry guests and people within the Crown Heads Ace Prime family and other things. How is that? I've noticed that's kind of gone not as frequent. Are you guys still doing that? And what was that experience like? What has that taught you?
Well, Bulb has continued to be online, and we continue to talk about it and the success that we want Bulb to be. Right? It's not this gigantic thing. It's a little thing that we have. Just our way to try to give back to retailers. And I was doing these shows, and it's totally Coop, Bear, I did these shows twice a week, and I ran out of things to talk about, man. I don't know how you guys do this. Like, it literally got to the point where Luciano had to finally go back to the factories, and John has to work on new product. And I told him, because I wasn't, they told me literally a day before we did the first show that I was going to host it. So I just thought maybe I'll be on 1 or 2 shows. It was a lot of fun. We will do more shows in the future, but I'm glad that we've taken a little rest because, man, I have just ran out of things to talk. I'm usually the guy being interviewed, right? So it was kind of crazy, but we've enjoyed it, and I love doing the show. But man, you run out of things to talk about after a while.
You had a knack for it. I don't know, Cooper. I don't know if you want to second me on this. I think that Miguel did a great job as a host.
You did a great job. You did a great job.
So
well,
it
was a lot of fun, but I find myself watching a lot of Hacking Gourmet. That's a show that I absolutely love.
Well, it's funny you mentioned, like, it's so much easier, Miguel, having people ask questions because we're essentially professional talkers, right?
Yep.
So getting somebody else to talk, it gives you the amount of respect that it takes for the preparation they put in to prepare what's going to be spoken about. Because we come on the shows, they give us a quick rundown of what we're going. It's like, all right, perfect. Whatever you talk, whatever you're going to ask me, I'm ready. I'm prepared to answer. So it's easier on our end. But when you reverse that and you've got to do a show where you're the one asking the questions and interviewing, unfortunately on the show that we've got with Hacking Gourmet, we've got Fred, who's a professional at asking people questions and talking, on the opposite side of it as well. It's really challenging. As I said, the respect that I have for what Bear, Coop, all of these shows that are on there, and we have a lot of good cigar podcasts and good cigar video casts and Facebook lives and YouTube lives. I mean, there's a lot of prep that goes into making those questions that we answer without any prep whatsoever. So thank you guys for asking good questions to make us, to allow us to answer them. Because I said on the other side, man, sometimes it's like, man, what questions am I going to ask this person?
Well, speaking of that, and John, thank you for the compliment, really and sincerely. But I really have to compliment both you and Miguel. But the Hacking Gourmet specifically, as we kind of segue over to you for a little bit here, the Hacking Gourmet show has really kind of taken over the cigar industry, and you guys are even attracting people outside of it. But I have to really commend you, and Coop actually even brought it to my attention as well. Just the quality of the production itself, and Miguel and company did a great job on Bulb as well with the quality and stuff. Because anyone could, in theory, anyone can do a show. God bless you, John. You're doing this from a phone today. Good God bless. Seriously, God bless you for doing it. But you guys really got it. You got some great, fabulous equipment. You got the multi-camera angles. You're really bringing us into the whole cooking experience. What kind of went, when you guys decided, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to do this right, what kind of went into the preparation from a production standpoint for you?
So, it started as just fun, and Crown Heads was, they were very supportive. For every week for 3 to 4 months, on their main Crown Heads Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, they were promoting everything that we were doing, which was awesome. And this was prior to me even really presenting it to the concept that I had, that we've got going on. We're launching a big concept this week with LFD. This is before I even mentioned it to them. Crown Heads was, supporting what we were doing and getting out there. And I'd say the big thing for our show is we don't get thousands of viewers, but we get 400 to 500, and it's 400 to 500 loyal people. When somebody jumps on, they then follow what we're doing. They're then part of the show. So it's a really loyal following, which is great. It's, I look at the analytics, and it's but people are really engaged in what we're doing, whether it's through watching an Instagram picture, watching a quick live video, and there's some more plans with it, with, some more live stuff, smaller clips and things going forward. It started off just as something to do. I called Brian McGee and I was like, hey man, you want to do a cooking show next week? I've been in COVID for 7 days. I don't know what to freaking do. And so for me, that first question was, man, for 10 years, I hadn't been in one place for 10 years for more than maybe 3 days or maybe a week for like Christmas. And I travel probably top 2 or 3 in the business. Like, I mean, I'm out
The
300
trade show
plus days
is
a
like your
year.
home, right? The trade show is like your longest place in one spot, right?
Yeah. And so, like, last year at 176 flights.
Jeez.
So I'm all over the place. So the biggest change for me was being out around, interacting with people. Part of what I do is the time that I get to spend with people, not on just a standard, in-store visit, but hanging out at night. I started my career in the business by being up at 7 in the morning and being out till 2. When we were in different cigar shops, lounges, hanging out with people every night. So really how it started was like, how can I find something that engages that now this newfound free time that I had at the beginning of it, and then how can we take this and take it to another level when things start to normalize or things start to get back to a situation where we're in person a little bit more. So that's really where the production changed from. We were quarantine grilling at the beginning. And that's really from the second week we had kind of a plan of really where we were going to take it, and we already had the name picked out week 2 of what we were going to do with it. But the production was very important because those I'd say first 16 to 20 episodes were about trying to get some things in place, and we still have some different stuff each week. We add different things. We're changing the way we do ad reads. There's a lot of different things that we're putting in there to make it, make it make it less commercialized, but make it more of an experience at the same time. But really, the production change was when we do translate this into the cigar world or translate this into the food world. It's got to look legitimate, and it's got to have some direction to it. And that's really why the production had to change. Is it was setting it up to have it be part of something bigger. Which it is, and there's something that we're working on for Crown Heads for next year sometime. Miguel doesn't know about it. Brian doesn't know about it yet. He knows we're doing it. He just doesn't know what I'm doing. That's kind of how the whole show goes. Is every week they find out what we're doing, and they run with it. But we're launching the Gourmet Smoke Sessions. The official grand launch of the LFD Gourmet Smoke Session is this coming Thursday at Two Guys Smoke Shop. We've got 16 of those coming throughout. Actually, the last one's going to be February of 2022. So we have over the next 16 months, we're going to have a different gourmet session each month. And then we'll be doing some other special features and hopefully get into some other things in person as well. But yeah, it was the program and the production was made to be something that could translate to any environment. Where it started out, it was all virtual, and there'll always be a virtual and a broadcast part of the events and a broadcast part of the show. But we're trying to move into something that can be in person too at the same time.
Well, that's awesome. I'm about to light up my LFD DL700 natural here, and to Coop's delight, it is a big it is a Gordo. So
Good.
there you go, Coop. But on the LFD side, Jon, you guys went through some transition too. Of course, there was the early layoffs that you guys went with some of your sales team and everything. But you and I actually had a discussion about, and Coop even mentioned this on a prior show too, that getting leaner, to kind of make lemonade out of a rough situation and challenge that COVID has been. Getting leaner isn't necessarily even isn't always a negative from a company point of view. What has that taught you? As from the leadership perspective there?
Well, uniquely for us, so we own our own farms, factories, distribution. So as soon as COVID hit and lockdowns happened, our imports were done. I mean, we had nothing. We don't have bonded warehouses. If we don't have cigars, we don't have cash flows. So we were in a unique position right off the bat because as soon as the factories closed, there's no more cigars. So that obviously created a unique decision making, not knowing how long things are going to go. Looking at it over a longer term, prior to getting to that long term, the decision that we made was to make a long term decision. We felt like this was going to go on in a really precarious way for an extended period of time, which it's turning out to be. Fortunately, the cigar industry is experiencing experiencing it very differently than other industries. Like the restaurant industry is absolutely screwed. The cigar industry is thriving. There's definitely some retailers that have some challenges, but there's retailers that are having record-breaking years. And substantial record-breaking years. I'm not just saying being up; they're substantially up. But the big thing is that the way we do business is certainly going to change. The necessity, I look at a company like Drew Estate. They have 1 million reps. I don't see that lasting because you've had people at home for 8 months. I don't think that company's even traveling anymore until the beginning of 2021. So how does that go? You have to have 6 reps in the state of Texas, or I don't know. But the amount of time on the road, I think, is going to naturally, scale back. It will retract a little. I took this last 2 months and I really hit the road hard, and I wanted to make sure I got into a lot of different areas. It wasn't, I said, when I went to Texas, it was a quick trip. It wasn't to see everybody. It was kind of get a lay of the land. It was to talk to some salespeople out in the market. It was to talk to some of our key accounts and see what their feelings are. And if you had a strong relationship and you have a strong brand, this is a time where the retailer's just happy to call up and say, "Hey, I need cigars. This is what I got lined up." And the type of interaction that we're having, since you can't have as many people in a store, or you're concerned with spreading of a virus, it's different. I look at it now, and next month I'm going to scale back again. I'm going to probably just do 2 weeks next month in November and 2 weeks in December, and then start the year off and see where it goes. But making sure that the visits that you're having are substantial, and you're going out with an executable plan, is even more important now than it ever was. I think the industry for a long period of time was easily caught in a routine of, okay, this is what you do for events. This is how an event's run. This is how you're going to visit accounts. You're going to visit these accounts you're going to see all of your accounts every 6 weeks. I think that time frame is going to change. With us, it's certainly changed because we're working with a smaller sales group, but we're maintaining and growing at the same time with that. So that's a testament to the business and the brand that Lito and Inez have built. But it's also a testament to what the sales team that we have out there has done, and what my team's done. And I'd say on the leadership is, especially with us, there was some layoffs at the beginning, so there was uncertainty with our team. And there was just uncertainty overall in general with what was going on. I think even for places that didn't experience that. So whenever there's uncertainty, it's really challenging. You just kind of have to be there, for the people and that depend on you. And I would say the first 3 months, like for me, it was a miracle that you guys would, like Crown Heads had a Zoom call every day, and I tried to do 2 or 3 a week, just because I was like, man, I felt bad because Crown Heads is doing like every single day. I was like, am I doing enough? And I finally said to the guys, I'm like, okay, we talk every day regardless. We're going to do these Zoom calls just to keep some sort of a routine going, which was the important part. And that's what I say. Where we're at now is we're in a stage of where things change. There's always silver linings. There's always opportunity in change, whether it's a positive change or negative change. But what I feel is this is a time for the industry to streamline and provide a next higher level and a better level of service. And a new level of service. We're redoing all of our event programs. When we do events, they're going to be there. There's no more buy one get ones. There's no more buy 3 get 1. We're not just. This is the cigar industry. Experiences are what it's about. Standing there at a table and trying to convince people to buy products is in the past, and I hope to see that go away. But it really, for us, it was really just gutting everything from the inside out and trying to be more efficient all around. And it's challenging. We're still doing it now. And unfortunately, we're doing it at a time where we're having great growth. But the reason for it and the purpose for it was just in the event something happened and we couldn't have that growth, or we didn't have cigars for 6 months, that we were running as efficiently as possible. And I think that's a good thing for the cigar industry. I think it's I think it's a good time to look at what areas we can get better at, what areas we can focus on more, and then work smarter and harder at the same time. So for me, it's been about streamlining, looking at systems, looking at how the team works, the efficiency of how they work, and that's a really challenging thing, because when things are going great, which they had for a period of time, take legislative stuff out and regulatory things out. I mean, it's been about 15 really great years, maybe 20 even great years of the cigar industry. So it was really easy to get caught, and this is what we've always done. This is how this works, because it does. But now there was a time when we weren't sure what was going to go on. Fortunately, we're really busy, but at the same time, we're really busy experiencing great growth, and we're making decisions to try to make things more efficient.
I mean, you've definitely weathered, a challenging storm there, Jon. With what you've had to deal with from your point of view and everything, and Miguel with his challenges as well through crowned heads and everything. But Jon, I think you brought up an interesting point, and I know Coop is already, behind the microphone is already excited about, him and I have long talked about how the quote unquote cigar event in its style has gone stale, and so
Yep.
with you
Yeah, this is great.
looking to revamp that, I know that makes him excited. And Coop, we're going to get to you in 2 seconds, but I wanted to point out
Sure.
to one thing that you said, Jon, about long-standing brands like LFD and Crowned Heads. The benefit that you guys have experienced. Now, Miguel, I know you and I've had this conversation about where you still have that excitement. It seems like every time you do an event, there's still one or two people that still haven't heard the name Crowned Heads. Oddly enough, I would still say. But David Garofalo was speaking on a show that Coop and I, where we had the honor to interview him, and he was talking about, in this time where, curbside service became the norm for a long time, is that people were going to their go-tos. They were going to the staples. And so, companies like Crowned Heads, like LFD, like Fuente, Padron, I mean, these companies already have great sales, but they were improving. They were going up simply because the customer couldn't go in and browse anymore. And so that all they had to do was rest on the laurels of their great smoking experience of the past, which happened to be your two great companies. So I think that led to a lot of the success that the cigar, for you, your two companies specifically, on how 2020 has been a bolstering success under these challenging times.
I think both companies have worked really hard on trying to build a loyal following by putting out quality product, reasonable prices, having good representation, having good relationship with retailers. And I think that showed during COVID. When you look at social media and you see the brands that are being smoked on a daily basis, there are a lot of La Flor Dominicanas. There are a lot of Crown Heads being consumed, and you're very happy about the work you put in over the last 10 years, last 15 years, last 20 years, and it paid off, and people really respect that and appreciate that. So it's a good feeling for the companies.
For sure. So Coop, going over to you. You and I have had this conversation a little bit, some on the record, some off a little bit. But I wanted to get your thoughts and share it with my audience. Now, you have a very different perspective. We both said how when we first started COVID and everything, all Miguel launched Bulb, Carney launched Hacking Gourmet, and then there were these other, dozens and dozens of shows have kind of launched, and our good friend of the show, Chris, Gomez, has done a great job with Daily Ash about highlighting each and every day on his Instagram the live shows that are being broadcast.
Amazing job he's done. Yeah.
Incredible work that he's done, and that the number seems to just go up every single day. And he finds these like obscure shows and these really small brands, these really small brands that are just starting. So from where you see, is there a concern that there's a saturation there, and if there is, do you think that's a positive or a negative for what we do?
No, I think it's a
Guys,
positive.
just by the way, before you answer that question, Coop, I want to let you guys know we're on a mission right now. You're probably not aware, but I've been driving for the last few seconds. My lighter's dead, and I am on a mission to find someone smoking so I can steal their lighter.
There you go.
This is only on the ELOSOFUMARTAKES show do you get this type of
All right, so go ahead and answer that, Coop.
Sincerely, bless your heart, Jon. This is awesome. This is incredible.
No, I think it's a positive that I've seen. There's a few things I've seen wrong with what's done. And I think a lot of people like I think what Miguel and Luciano did with Bulb was great. I think they did a really good job. Particularly they tried to, you talk about Fred Rue, he wrote that book, Be the Lime. Okay. And that's really important. Like you don't want to be a bunch of lemons. You don't want to be one of the lemons. You want to be the lime that stands out. And I look at what Fred has done, what Miguel and Luciano did with their show. They had some industry guests, right? But they also did the kind of the technical show they were doing on Monday, really getting into these blends, like where I hadn't seen a company do that before. So I think they were doing a good job at distinguishing themselves. John with the Hacking Gourmet, it's kind of another avenue. This whole, everyone talks meats in the cigar industry. Here are cigar industry people now talking meat. So they're kind of being the line. So I think there's enough of that. There was and the other thing is there were a lot of people, though. I don't think that what I think was bad is I don't think people were cognizant of their competition. So a lot of times we're seeing shows on, like 5 or 6 shows on at the same time on some days, and like Wednesday's dead. And I never understood why everyone was going to Thursdays and Tuesdays to do their shows. I don't know if it was just something, but to me, if I was starting a show, I would have went to Wednesday, Monday, or Friday. That was
Well,
just
the big thing with it now is if you look at these, so you've got all these shows on Thursday night, right? So what's the busiest night for events in the cigar business? Thursday, Friday night. So all of us had all this extra time on the busy nights of the week. So I'm obviously on another cigar show as a guest every week. And I talked to him. I'm like, Matthew, I go, if you're going to want me on the show regularly, I go, Thursday's not going to work, man. I go, it worked perfect. I go from March to August. I go, but I have every Thursday booked for the next 2 months. Right. I go, because that's when we do events. So I think that was the night. The reason people picked Thursday is that was the night when we were available.
Yeah, I think a lot of that. I think that's a fair point too. And we are on Thursday nights at 10. So we're on, a lot of times we would get people after the events. So we had a big advantage with that. Like a lot of people like 10 o'clock, why 10 o'clock? Well, West Coast, and we get people after a lot of these events, which has really helped us with that. So that was a big part of what we were doing with that. But the other thing that Bear, we had, and this is not to talk, I don't want to sound cocky here, but we had already built our base of people. And 100%. I didn't really see it. Yeah, I didn't really see, if anything, these people were adding podcasts to the shows. I don't think we lost any of our audience per se. And I look at it, maybe we lost a little at live, but we certainly made it more up on the downloads. August was the biggest download month for the podcast that we had. August was huge, right?
Nice.
And September was very big, and October is looking very good. So we did very, very well with that right now. So, but I think I think in the end, I think there's been some new content that's come out there. Like Matt's show that John's a part of is a very good show. I mean, you should. It's a very well done show. It's well produced. There's good guests on. So, and I think that's a show that's going to be around for a while. So I think we're starting to see, and other people I think did it as an interim thing, and then there was maybe some point where it wasn't meant to be a long-term thing, and that's okay too. So I think in the end it was better. Remember, there was no sports on either.
Yeah,
there was no sports like the whole spring and into part of the summer. So we weren't competing with sports. Even TV shows were all in reruns. So there was an opportunity certainly for,
and people were spending all day with their family. And so they weren't reserving their nights for their family. So they actually used us and Bulb and Hacking Gourmet and so on for getting away,
And we've seen some of the people who've come into the chat room with our shows, and Bear and I just drop our wow, they're tuning into our stuff and they're commenting on our stuff. So it was, and the other thing is we certainly didn't have a problem getting guests. So even though there was all these other shows, we certainly didn't have a problem getting guests. What we tried to do is we tried to make sure that we weren't doing like the book tour that I refer to, like with guests. So we tried to avoid having a guest do like if we saw a guest doing 4 or 5 shows and they wanted to do ours, we're like, not a good idea. Why don't you come on a few weeks later or something like that? And I think that's worked out well for us. But anytime we're talking cigars, that's a good thing.
I agree.
People talking cigars, it's a good thing. We don't want to ever discourage that.
I think cigar smokers in general are very social people. I mean, you go, I think probably I would say as high as 8 out of 10 cigar smokers are people that like to interact with other cigar smokers, right? And so COVID really, I think there were a lot of guys that used Facebook to just, hey, how you doing? How's family? And then they would see that all these people they were following, they were going to be a guest on a show, or they were going to be a guest on a show, and they'd say, hey, you know, I'm going to go out on my patio, pour myself a drink, and watch some of these shows. And Coop, the most important thing is when people are talking cigars, it's a great thing. And I'm glad that our industry, if COVID would have happened in the 80s, that this wouldn't have happened. 90s, it wouldn't have happened, right? The fact that we have technology that we have today, and people taking advantage of it and saying, hey, I have the technology. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that, you know, we're gonna get the word out. We're gonna have people smoking together. I mean, it's really incredible. And whenever I get invited to be on a show, I try my hardest to accommodate and be there. But obviously, guys like you, Coop or Bear, you know, when you guys have a show and you ask, hey, would you like to be a guest? I'll do everything in my power to make sure that I'm there, because I know how hard you guys work at your craft and really respect what you guys do. The fact is that in the world that we have today, the fact that we're able to say, hey, there's a door, we're gonna find out a way to break down the door and keep doing what we do. And I've met a lot of cigar smokers that I probably would have never met before from doing a lot of these shows. And some of them will last, some of them won't last. But at the end of the day, it's just incredible that people are talking premium cigars, man.
Yeah, and you can't. I don't get enough of it. So it's like I'm not. You know, I'm excited about it. And like I said, I think some of these shows are going to be continuing. You mentioned certainly it's great that Bulb's going to continue. I mean, Meet the Professor. Carlito is now a podcast host. Who would have ever thought
Who would
that
have ever guessed that? Right.
Who would have ever guessed that? Yeah, they found their niche on Sunday afternoon. I mean, that was a perfect spot for them.
So, you know, I think, if you don't mind,
please,
when, you know, with the cooking show that John does, and obviously he's brought Brian McGee in, he's brought Fred Rui in, and I mean, that's a show where, I mean, a lot of us cigar guys are weekend warriors with the grill, right? I mean, but we don't necessarily maybe talk about it, but now there's so much talk about this show and what they're doing. It's incredible, because we smoke cigars, but there's other things that we're passionate about. And so many of these guys that smoke cigars and ladies that smoke cigars, we love grilling. And that show is really turned into something special that people really, really love and enjoy. And what is amazing is I've watched a lot of online YouTubers that have cooking shows and things like that. You find yourself going down the rabbit hole on YouTube. But in John, this is a total compliment to you, brother. The plating that John does on some of his dishes are better than I've seen on TV. Yeah. And I'm like, man, you got to keep running with this thing, man, because there are some setups that he does with some of the stuff and the drizzle of it. You're like, man, this looks better than what I see on the cooking shows. And so I think that's incredible.
Yeah. And John, you're only year one into this thing. It takes about 3 years to build a podcast audience and build your brand. It really does. And you're kind of doing it organically right now. So you have the sky is the limit right now, is what I'm just telling you. You're just at the beginning of this. I told Bear the same thing when he started podcasting.
Yeah, the unique side of it is, you know, all right, so the largest growth market in terms of digital media consumption, and I pun intended, was the food business. The Food Network went crazy.
Yeah.
Because people 100%. Were cooking at home. And, you know, the goal of this market isn't to compete with the Food Network, because it's tough to compete with the Food Network, you know, and it's tough to compete with. By the way, I did find a lighter. We're in good shape right now, so we're gonna go back to my other spot. Boom. But the goal is not to compete with the Food Network. So, like, we have a small group of followers on Instagram, because we're just getting that started. I kind of transitioned my food posts over to that. But that's not the goal. The goal is not to have 12,000 Instagram people that just like my posts and like our pictures. The goal is to give people an experience in person and virtually. And we're working in a niche market, which is the cigar market. So if you want to capture people on the food side, you either have to be a world famous chef, have this crazy background and this crazy pedigree, because that's what people want that are just doing food. But in cigars, we already have a captive audience that's now interested in what we're doing because we're in the cigar business. So they're interested in the cigars, and then they see that you can prepare food like their chef that they like. And then it becomes a very special experience for them. where those other outlets don't have that. You know, the second you put a cigar on Chopped, the episode would never be on the air. So we're working in a niche market with a small group of people, but in reality, it's actually even bigger than the cigar business, because everyone that smokes cigars loves food. Everyone likes eating dinner. You just got to find an item they like. They also like eating nice things, and if you can show them how to do it in a way that's reasonably affordable, or you can bring it to them and give them a crazy event in person, you know, and that's their purchase of a box of cigars. So I bought this box of cigars, and I got this crazy dinner. I ate tomahawk ribeyes with crazy mashed potatoes, this, that, whatever it is. You know, it's just a really fun thing, and it was a no brainer to start the way we were starting it. And as we get back out on the road, it doesn't take away from what we're doing in cigars; it just enhances it. So it's no interference whatsoever. So it's perfect. It's a perfect storm. It's a perfect venue for it, and there's nobody else doing it. So I've done some cooking events for 10 years, but nobody's bringing it all together where there's a live. You know, every event we do is going to be a live broadcast.
Yeah.
So people are going to be part of a live studio audience. They're going to be watching the cooking demonstration and participating and eating the food that was actually cooked. When you watch Chopped, you have to cook it on your own, or try to figure it out and follow what's going on. This one, you can actually watch it, cook it with us, or you can watch it, smoke with us, and eat it in person if you come to one of the events. So there's you know, the sky's the limit with it. It's going to grow exponentially as we get out there further. So we've got some meat sponsors, which are great. We obviously have the cigar sponsors because those are the companies that are our full-time jobs. And you know, we couldn't do this without the cigars. So it's, you know, the cigars get the foot in the door, but on the cigar end, we get to give an experience that nobody else is giving.
So,
And by the way, that they can't do. Like, I'll take anybody on in the cigar business. I already did. I lost to that guy. Now I brought him on the show.
there you go. So, Coop, take it back to you for just a couple seconds. I have a two-part question, but they go hand in hand. So you and I had a conversation very early on about this subject, and I said, just watch. I said that, you know, there will be some cigar shows that pop off, and the good ones, like the ones we've been talking about tonight with Bulb and Hacking Gourmet, are just two of some of the fine examples that have kind of blown up during this time in a positive way. I said this is only going to amplify the amazing foundation that you've built with Prime Time, and so I want to know if you, you know, 7 months later and into this, if you agree with that point that I made very early on. And to that point, what has this also done for the website? Because that's really your bread and butter.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk, and that's a good point. Let's talk. There's actually three components I'll talk here. There's the podcast, there's the website, and then Jukebox, which is a separate animal entirely in a way. So you're right. I agree with your point. You know, with the podcast, we I know you, Aaron, we had conversations back and forth. We knew we had an opportunity here. We had captive guests for the most part, right? So there was a chance to really go after some guests right now that we had relationships with the company, or maybe we're trying to get relationships with the company that we can bring into the shows. And we worked hard to make sure that we had a lot of first time guests on. So I think we did very, very good with that. You know, I think that played. In fact, we kind of got away from the concept part of special edition for a while, just because we had an overload of guests on both shows where we were turning people away at one point. So I think that you were right. That paid off very, very well for us.
You know what's kind of unique too, you know, on the media side with your shows, like, so we started the Hacking Gourmet show. Our very first broadcast of the Gourmet Smoke Sessions was a test session on September 24th, and then the one that's coming up this week with Two Guys Cigars is actually another cigar podcast is broadcasting our show. They're broadcasting us, so it's the Hacking Gourmet show. Yeah, it's a co-branding type thing at the same time. And you know, I have ideas in my heads for other things too. Maybe in the future, there's a Sunday night special where it's ELOSOFUMAR presenting Hacking Gourmet, and there's a special Texas Toast edition. You know, or Cigar Coop, the North Carolina brisket competition. You know, the different things like that. And it is interesting because it allows us to bring. It said this is where it said these things. That's so unique about Hacking Gourmet is it doesn't interfere with anything to do with cigars because it involves cigars, it involves brands. And it said it's important. You were saying with your guests, what made me think of this was it's about the quality of what's coming on and what you're actually presenting. You want to make sure you don't have too much of this or too much of that. That's why we're only going to do one a month, and then we'll have some other specials and whatnot that are a little different. But it's eventually there's going to be too much media to consume. There's just not enough time to consume all of this, right? So the ones they're going to consume are the ones that are tied into those experiences that they have. And how can you make Cigar Coop be that experience? How can LFD become part of an experience? I mean, I really think that's the future. What we're seeing here is how can we get media and everybody involved in the true promotion of what's going on in brick and mortar retail shops.
Absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah. Bear, you mentioned the website. That was the thing that was keeping me up the most at night with this whole thing. So around April 1st, I was pretty convinced we weren't going to have a trade show. I just was convinced it wasn't happening. And there are two big events on the website every year that are my biggest traffic: trade show coverage and Cigar of the Year month, right? Those are the two big things. Suddenly I did not have this trade show coverage, right? So I was faced with, I was really getting worried what things were going to be like into the summer months. On top of that, what was getting compounded is, I go down to Miami about 4 times a year, right? So suddenly I'm not going down to Miami anymore, right? And that's where I build relationships. That's where I get a lot of information. I'm able to start some stories and stuff ahead of time. So that was a challenge. So, Aaron and I, we came up with that virtual trade show concept. It's the first year we've done it. We'll probably next year change it into a pre-game show for the trade show. Like we'll kind of keep the concept going with that, where people can come on and talk about their products. That was an enormous boost, but there was another strategy I put behind that. And that was, well, if we don't have a trade show, why don't I just kind of cover things as if there was a trade show? So that's kind of what I did on Coop. And if you saw the Summer 20 Spotlight series, that's what I did, where, Bear, what we did in the past is we go to the booths, right? You give me information, I'd write up those reports. I did the same exact thing this year. And lo and behold, the July numbers come out, and we beat the July numbers with having a trade show last year. Which wow. And I think because we were the only ones doing that on Coop. No one else had taken that approach, right? They're printing press releases, they're putting out things. And I do think sometimes that people, when it comes to like covering news, right? And I know I'm segueing a little. There's people who will take the press releases and cover it, and like put the press release out. But when it comes to the stuff without the press releases, they tend to either not do it or they pick the brands they like, right? And you can't do that. You have to kind of do everything as a whole. You kind of have to treat everyone the same. Yes, it's frustrating sometimes when a company gives an exclusive to a big magazine, but we've dealt with that. We're not going to change that behavior. They don't realize the damage it causes, but we have to work, or we can't use that as an excuse. So there were a lot of brands that I was covering. I just didn't see coverage happening with these other brands going on right now. And that was another thing that I thought was a big help. So it was a way of turning lemons into lemonade here. It was a way to help make it stand out. And Coop is having a very good fall now. September, which is normally September and February are the worst months of the year historically for the website. We had a tremendous September. It was probably the best September I've had since I started the site. So something worked. I don't know if it was because the approach we took, or if people were just looking to us now. We didn't have to compete with all the other IPCPR coverage from last year. So I think it ended up working very well with that.
And this would be remiss and not to congratulate you again, Coop. This is your 10th anniversary of Cigar Coop. So congrats on 10 years of exceptional coverage of the premium cigar industry. So
thank you. Thank you. You were a big part of that. Everyone on this call was a big part of it, as well as everyone tuned in. We can't thank our our strategic partners, our sponsors, obviously, and our audience enough. And it would not have been possible without that. So we got to thank them. We can't thank them enough, obviously.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, these next two questions are a little bit of fun. They kind of go hand in hand. But again, in light of me bringing on some of my favorite friends within the industry, I'd like to share some of our interests and stuff. And so, Miguel, when Miguel and I first met on this show, literally this is Miguel's 5th appearance on ELOSOFUMARTAKES. He's one behind the leader, Trip Waldrop, who's been on 6. ELOSOFUMARTAKES. Miguel has been on 5. He and Dennis Fang are in 2nd place with the most appearances on ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is John's 2nd. Coop, this is your 2nd.
My second,
so
yep.
I hope to have you all on for many more. But one of the things that Miguel and I learned about each other on our first show together was we have this affinity for presidents. we really enjoy history, and we enjoy the history of the leaders of our country, very well. And so the recent events, historically speaking, we're not going to get political, but I thought this would be an interesting question to pose to the 3 of you, because I thought we'd get some 3 interesting perspectives on this. So let me go ahead and frame it up for you guys. So, it came out after the very first presidential debate between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden, that President Trump had contracted COVID-19. Okay. Now, as we talked over the course of this show, COVID-19 has presented a lot of challenges, obviously, for this industry. And we keep using the word unprecedented times, but it isn't necessarily unprecedented. The fact that this country did go through another pandemic exactly almost to the day 100 years ago with the Spanish flu. Okay. And the Spanish flu took place during Woodrow Wilson's presidency. Now, Woodrow Wilson also, in this early part of his 2nd term, contracted Spanish flu as well. He was one of the millions of people around the world that contracted the virus that was the part of the pandemic back then. And Woodrow Wilson is historically recognized for a lot of things in his presidency. The form of the League of Nations. He led this country through World War I. Of course, there was the whole thing about the end of his presidency, where was it really his wife running the country, or was it really him? Fact check, it really was his wife, who was actually he was incapacitated, by the way. So we actually did have a woman president, believe it or not, back then. And of course he and then 14 points and numerous of other things during his presidency. But as a footnote, many people don't know that he actually suffered from the Spanish flu. And so I want to pose the question to you 3 gentlemen, again, not to get necessarily too political, but Donald Trump's presidency has had a lot of highlights, let's just call it that. So 100 years from now, whether it's 4 years or whether it's 8 years, 100 years from now, will history even recognize that Donald Trump contracted the COVID-19 virus? Or do you think it will be, similarly to Woodrow Wilson, will be a footnote on his legacy? Coop, I'll start with you.
This little story I want to just tell before I kind of get to that. The Spanish flu, actually, people want to know how my dad's Jewish and has the name Cooper, right? My great-grandfather, actually, my natural great-grandfather died with the Spanish flu when my grandfather was like 2 years old. So my grandfather was adopted by someone who happened to have the name of William Cooper, who I'm named after.
Why is it called the Spanish flu?
It's interesting that you mentioned. It's interesting you mentioned that, because ironically, the first documented case supposedly was actually in Kansas, of all places. So the Spanish flu was actually given the name because of at the time it was actually misnamed, because they felt that the origin actually had been in the Caribbean, so the Spanish-speaking countries and everything. And in point of fact, the actual first documented case was in the United States, and it was believed to be, and still is documented to this day, to be in Kansas. So it was actually a misname, believe it or not. So
Could have been called the Kansas flu.
Yeah, I guess they didn't want to call it the Kansas flu.
Yep.
So
yeah, but let me answer the question. So I just want to kind of antidote that. I think this will be a footnote in history. If Trump had gotten very sick from it, I think it would be another story. or if something tragic had happened as a result of that, which thank God nothing tragic happened. No matter what you think of him, you want him to be okay. But I think there's gonna be other things that are gonna be remembered about the Trump presidency that are gonna have longer historic ramifications. Maybe he'll be remembered that it was his presidency that had it, but I don't think much is gonna be made of this, because I think ultimately the presidency has changed under Donald Trump, and I think it's gonna have, for future generations, we're gonna see a ripple effect of that, and that maybe they'll point back to the terms of Donald Trump, and as a whole, I think will be remembered. Maybe not and I think this may just get lost from it, similar to Woodrow Wilson. So I don't think so.
The unique thing is history, especially extended history, has a way of telling the true story, and when you can look at things in perspective. You said something fair about how it's really not unprecedented. I think we see things in the presidency that seem unprecedented that really aren't. I mean, there's a lot of reforms that are going on and that have happened in the past. We're still having discussions over similar types of issues time after time. We've been discussing healthcare now for forever. So there's a lot of precedence with it. And then you got to look back at the time, and this is not to show support for one or the other. Ronald Reagan was hated when he was president. Now he won overwhelmingly, but the media hated him. He was a jerk. He was renowned as being an asshole to the media. He didn't have Twitter, but he had his voice, and he would tell people that he was done answering their questions and they were stupid. He would tell reporters to shut up and walk off the stage. If you want a highlight reel of combativeness with the media, just go watch YouTube and look up Ronald Reagan videos. But now he's renowned as maybe one of the best presidents ever. So I'm not saying that's what you're going to see necessarily with Trump. However, I will certainly agree with Coop that he's changed the way we look at the presidency. He's not a politician, whether it's 4 years or another 4 years. What he's fundamentally changing what we see that position as, and I think that position maybe needs to change because we're in a different time now. The way we consume media is different. We just talked about all that, and the way we consume cigar media, the cigar industry is changing. We wouldn't expect our industry to change and all these other industries that are being impacted more, including politics, to not have some sort of change. So I would say with the COVID situation, it'll be part of the story. It'll obviously be a big thing politically. This has obviously been a pandemic has been politicized, which I don't think is a good thing. It's been politicized on all sides. So we're going to get to study that, which will be really interesting to study, 5-10 years down the road, to study the politics of the pandemic. I mean, which is a crazy thought, right? We're going to talk about how it was played on different sides and different angles. So we're going to see that. I think him getting it's just going to be a blip because, I mean, he essentially had a cold for 4 days.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I think with that. And typically the other thing I'll say is most presidents, I'll take a couple out of it. Most presidents are more remembered for their foreign policy things historically.
And by the way, people like George W. Bush has a better approval rating now than he did when he was president. I mean, he had one of the lowest approval ratings of all time, and now he's buddy with all these people, and he's looked on quite well. They do nice stories on his paintings and all these different things. So I mean, history has a way of telling it. Donald Trump's story is going to be told very different, but same thing. Time will change the way that we look at these things currently.
Yeah, a lot of times I think a president's judged on their post-presidency too, and how they become the elder statesman of this country.
Jimmy Carter certainly succeeded more outside of office while he did in it, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exponentially.
And I'm really curious to see how Donald Trump in his post-presidency, whenever that is going to be viewed, and that's good, and how he characterizes himself. That's going to be very interesting to see over the next 10 years and longer term, obviously.
For sure, that'll be an interesting perspective too, Coop. Miguel, your thoughts? Do you think it'll be a footnote in his legacy, or
if he would have died from it, it would have been a big part of his legacy. But he didn't. He survived it, and much like Reagan, it's funny when I talk. I love presidential history. I love trivia. I have a board game, for God's sake, that I play with my family. It's about presidents and history. People sometimes forget that Reagan almost died. He was shot, and people don't even talk about that anymore. We talk about the presidents that did die in office. So I think when everything is said and done, COVID will be one of those things like Spanish flu. It'll be kind of forgotten about. When people talk about COVID and they bring up Spanish flu, most Americans didn't even understand or remember any of that in history. So I don't think it'll be at all, and I think with Trump, I agree with John. He's changed the presidency quite a bit, and I think that he will be in a very kind of a unique, because he has really no political experience, a guy who was a celebrity who went directly into kind of being a politician, where Ronald Reagan went from being a celebrity to a politician to being the president, right? And so it'll be a footnote in his history. If he would have been really affected hard, or if Mike Pence would have had to step up and been the president in his absence, that would have been something. But I don't think COVID will be at all remembered during his presidency. It doesn't matter if it's 4 years or 8 years. I think there's going to be a lot more other things to discuss in his presidency. But the further you get away, the further you get, we still are examining presidents from way back when about their effect on the country. Calvin Coolidge is a great example of a president who was looked at as Silent Cal was a guy who was looked at as just another president, blip on the screen. And the more you look at his history and the further we get away from it, we can really understand a lot of the decisions that he made were much bigger impact than at the time they could see. And so either it be Obama or Reagan or any of the Bushes, it's going to take 30, 40, 50 years for them to really understand the effect of their presidency. Mm-hmm. What's interesting to me is that sometimes the right president at the right time happens to come into office at the right time, right place, right time. And other times it doesn't work out that way. You know what I mean? So Herbert Hoover was a guy who, as a president, had the background to really, such an economic background, who really probably would have thrived in getting us out of the Depression. But because it happened under his watch, FDR was able to come in and take the presidency from him. And so when you look at what Trump's ultimate things that people remember about him or his presidency, I think 30, 40 years down the line, if you're really into presidential history, we won't really know. I think Ronald Reagan is a guy who, there's a great skit, John, if you haven't seen it, it's an old Saturday Night Live skit, and it's Ronald Reagan and all the media. I don't know if you've seen it before, but all the media.
No, John's love of SNL will come up in a second. So.
Okay, well, it's an old SNL, and a guy's playing, Ronald Reagan, and the media's there, and he's telling them about his jelly beans and da-da-da, and they leave the room, and all of a sudden his whole demeanor changes, you know what I mean? He's like telling people what to do, and he's like kind of a tough guy, and then they come back in, he's like, hey, I love you guys. Look, at the end of the day, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I'm ready for the election to be over. I love presidential history, and it's great for talk. It's great for conversation. And if you're into history, American history, it's been in a tremendous 4 years of things that have happened in our country that if you're a student of history, it's really been an incredible wealth of information.
Absolutely. So I'm laughing about an SNL skit. This is from early on in Trump's presidency. SNL did this one skit. I don't traditionally think the show's that funny anymore, but sometimes they hit on one skit. And right at the beginning of his presidency, they were on fire. They had a press conference. Who was his first press secretary?
Spicer. Sean Spicer. I know what you're getting.
Spicy. Yeah. Spicy. Yeah. So they go to the press room, and they've got the CNN reporters. Acosta's wearing a diaper. He's in a cage because Spicy put him in the cage.
And do you remember he was on like a little scooter too, like his desk would move.
He'd go off. Melissa McCarthy would go off stage with the pedestal and go down in front of people's face, and it's like Spicy needs a big boy nap. I mean, there was just some great stuff at the beginning that was really funny, and they said everything's got a little bit too political now, where the jokes aren't as good, but there was some good stuff, and I mean, he's such an easy target too. I mean, he's a cartoon character at the same time, so it definitely
John.
sets itself up. So
Sure.
he said it's going to be history is going to be interesting because there's so much good stuff that went on in terms of the political, like I love political strategy. Like strategy is my big thing. The history is not. I just want like information on like what these decisions were made, why they were made, who was saying what. Like I love that stuff. Like when they declassify information, that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I got to tell you real quick. I got to tell you what's amazing to me, and talking about American history is you know we talk about Saturday Night Live. I mean, if you remember Saturday Night Live, what they made Gerald Ford.
Oh
Gerald
my
Ford,
goodness!
Gerald
Gerald
Ford was a very smart, athletic, former model, an intelligent, very sharp man, but he was so boring. So the show made him a bumbling idiot, and he really wasn't a bumbling idiot. But what at the end of the day, out of this whole conversation, what is amazing about a thing like Saturday Night Live, and we need Saturday Night Live, is you can't do that if Putin is your president. You can't do that if you're in China. You can't do that in Cuba.
Yeah.
The fact that we can rip presidents apart, and I know it's political. Like, it's always been political. Everything is political. But at the end of the day, the fact that Saturday Night Live can make fun of Obama, can make fun of Spicer, can make fun of Trump. I don't forget, we live in this free country, and it is amazing to me that we can have a show on every Saturday that pokes fun at our leaders, and they don't have to worry about a knock on their door in the middle of the night, dragging them out. That's what is really amazing about the United States of America.
There was a show.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say real quick. I do want to respect our audience tonight. So Orlando brought up the fact that the Spanish flu is named because it was started in Spain. I said the Caribbean country. I was inaccurate. But I do want to point out, I was correct about Kansas. The first observations were in Fort Riley, Kansas, as well as Brest in France, New York City, Germany, and the United Kingdom. However, because World War I was going on, to keep up morale, censors actually minimized these early cases. Now they are determined to be the first documented cases. But newspapers at the time were free to report the epidemic's effects in neutral Spain, and such as actually King Alfonso XIII actually contracted the illness, and that's where the name Spanish flu came from. So I was incorrect about the Caribbean, so I apologize about that. And Orlando was spot on about the earlier reports of why it's called the Spanish flu. So
interesting enough, in Spain, it's known as the flu de español. It's very, very, very simple. Very, very, very easy.
Interesting.
Well, Miguel, you had one last point though. I didn't want to.
No, that's what I love. I love the fact, I know, John, you have a passion about this country. You love, our soldiers, and you love it. These are the things that I think get lost on people sometimes when Saturday Night Live or any of these guys, like, look, man, at the end of the day, the fact that we can make fun of the people, that we can get on Twitter and making fun of our leaders and not worry about being dragged off in the middle of the night. At the end of the day, God bless America, man. We live in a great
100%.
country.
Absolutely.
So this kind of came up for a number of reasons, because I think all of us were privy to it, and if our audience probably caught this as well, there was a let's call it a dust up in the premium cigar industry earlier this week, where two of the industry's most prominent social media presences, and Jeff Borsowitz and Skip Martin, were the center of a discussion over a debate. And so I'm not going to get into the details of that. If you want to go check out what came about from that, you guys can go back on Facebook. There's plenty of documentation.
1,200 comments I counted.
1,200.
So you got your work.
You got your work for it if you need to play some catch up. But I thought we would have a little fun with this question. So, in the spirit of debate season, as it were, anyway. So I wanted to pose this question to the three of you. Okay, so here it is, and it's two parts. So actually it's three part. Who in the cigar industry would you like to debate? What would be the topic? And who would win? So
I'm ready.
So Miguel, you're ready. I want to hear it. Who would you debate? What would be the topic, and who would win? Go.
Well, Mr. Jon Carney has this passion for red meat. And I have a passion for seafood. I think seafood is the greatest thing on earth, right, to eat. And he may be a big fan. I've seen him cook seafood before, but I would love to have a debate about Carney about what is the superior thing to grill. Is it fish or is it red meat? That,
Ooh.
and I don't know who would win that argument. Jon is a very sharp, smart individual, but I think I could hold my own.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So it would be over food. Okay.
Filleting me live on the air.
All right. Coop, do you have someone in mind? What would you do?
Go to the next person first.
Go to Carney. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, Miguel, don't worry. If I don't like what you say in the debate, I won't start a private Facebook group and talk trash about you.
Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate that,
Yeah,
Jon.
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh wow, who would I debate? Well, I feel like every time I hang out with Juan Lopez, who's one of my good friends, I feel like I have to debate everything with him, even if we agree. So I feel like I already do debate Juan Lopez on a continual basis. So I think it was just naturally to continue that ongoing debate. And who would win? Nobody ever wins.
There you go.
So no, there'd be no win. In a real actual debate, someone that I'd like to debate, man. So here's my thing. I'm not a big debate fan because debating doesn't get anything done. You're just talking about ideas and thoughts, right? I'm more about executing things and getting stuff actually done. But I think debate is important. I just don't choose to get into it because I feel like it goes around in circles quite a bit. I'll tell you somebody that I wouldn't debate because I tend to agree with him on a lot of things. But Terrence Riley is probably one of the more
Very sharp.
So smart.
astute historical people. Like he's a history guy.
Very
he's got
well
a really
read.
good memory, and he's also very he's also really nice. Like he doesn't get overly excited, and he's not mean-hearted. So I think if it was an actual debate, he'd be a hard person to go with. So I would not debate him at all. I think debating anyone that gets angry would be fun for me because I could make it very personal. And that's really how I go with debates is I make them very personal. So it's probably just good that I don't debate anybody in the cigar industry. But yeah, Juan Lopez is the answer. I'd debate Juan Lopez because I've been doing it for 10 years and everybody else has been doing it too. So nobody wins, everyone loses, but you still get to hang out with Juan, so that's a good time.
Coop, do you want me to go or do you want to go?
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
Hit me.
You know, I was thinking of a media person, right? And I really couldn't think of a good media person to debate because I think more like people say they want me to debate like Charlie, but Charlie and I tend to agree on a lot of the opinions we have. So that wouldn't be good. But I'm thinking of one example where I took a very strong position and I had very big pushback from this person. And the person's Glenn Loop. I want to debate. And it's over the whole positioning of Rudy Giuliani saving the cigar industry.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that.
And again, I'm not trying to get political here, but when it came to cigars, I had a very strong opinion on that, which I'm not going to rehash here, but I thought we were going down a pipe dream with that. And I was very vocal on the opinions of how he was being positioned and how he spoke at IPCPR. And I would love to have a chance to debate, and I think we'd have a very civil and good debate with
spirited
him.
debate, as they say.
It would be spirited, but I think I can win it. I really think I can win that, and that's a challenge because Glenn is a great orator.
Yeah, he is.
So I would take on the challenge. I'd welcome it in the spirit of afterwards we'd sit down and have a cigar afterwards.
I could debate him over tie or bow tie.
Right.
I debate Glenn Loop often, so on the air and off the air. So I think that one's already well documented for me,
right.
me and Glenn, and we're gentlemen about it. At the end of the day, I respect the work that he's done.
Exactly, that's how it should be,
and it's exactly how it should be. And we disagree on a lot of stuff. So, I thought about this, and I thought about what would be fun, and I said I basically could take on the entire cigar industry because of my hatred for Chevy Chase and how everybody seems to love him, and so I would definitely.
He played Gerald Ford on Saturday Night Live.
That's awesome.
That's probably why it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
So
you haven't seen it, and you know.
So I thought about that, but at the same time, I also thought about a couple of other things, and I thought about Glenn, and I was like, well, that's kind of already well documented, as it were, and everything. And so I would love the opportunity in an actual forum, and we go back and forth on it on the baseball show, Coop. But I think it would be really fun at some point. I don't know how it would happen, but I know that we could definitely part as gentlemen because of our relationship and everything. But if Aaron Loomis and I actually had a debate over the unwritten rules of baseball,
Oh yeah.
I'd see
including
that. I want to see that.
including robot umpires, and I would definitely win because I have the national pastime in history and tradition on my side. So,
There you go.
but
That'd
I
be
think it
great.
would still be fun and spirited, and I'm not sure how we could ever possibly do it other than over a glass of bourbon and a cigar, and
Yeah,
on the back patio at the media compound.
that's what I was
But
thinking. That may be a place to do it.
it would be fun, and I know that Aaron always brings his A game, so I know it would be fun, it would be spirited, and it would be challenging because Aaron's extremely knowledgeable, and he's very passionate about his opinions, as it were, too. So I think that would be fun and spirited at the same time. So all right, well, gentlemen, thank you for participating there. Like I said, I wanted to make light you know of the recent dust up and everything, and I thought it would be a fun question to ask and everything. So that brings us into our One Must Go segment. And as every week, everyone knows that our One Must Go is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabay and Byron lines. So smoke one today and start living united. So we're gonna continue this fun thing, gentlemen. And so it's very simple. So in the spirit of my birthday episode, we're going to talk about birthdays. And of course, you can't have birthdays without some of the traditional trimmings. We've talked about some of our memories as children and growing up with birthdays and everything. And Carney spending it at the greatest place on earth in Disney World every year. So that's awesome. But so here we go. So here are the three things with your birthday. Now, one has to go. Okay, you can never have this one ever again. So what would you kick to the curb? So here are your birthday choices. All right. So birthday cake, presents, or a birthday meal, which Miguel spoke very highly about in his memory. So I'm interested to get, so one must go: birthday cake, your presents, or your birthday meal. And I know Jon has a special affinity for food, as we've been talking about all episode as well. So this is interesting. I wanted to get your thoughts. So Coop, you took the last honors last time, so I'll go ahead and start with you. So Coop, which one gets the kick to the curb? One's got to go.
Cake.
Cake
Goes.
Because you're a pie guy.
The cake goes. Cake. Birthday cakes are mostly overrated sheet cakes for the most part, right? But in general, I mean, I can live without cake. I mean, I want that birthday. I'd rather have the birthday steak at a birthday meal, and I'm not gonna turn away presents. I don't ask for presents. I like getting them. When you're older, you get a lot less presents, right? So, yeah, the cake's going. To me, I can live without it. Put the candles on the steak.
Okay, candles on the steak. Awesome.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I know there can be good birthday cakes, but most of them are kind of uninspiring. And then, now, the whole candles thing's overrated in my opinion too. So the cake goes.
Jay Davis, one of our most loyal listeners, is on the record that the cake stays. So yeah, I guess you
I'm
can
gonna
give
be.
him your
I'm gonna
cake.
go with Jay on that. The cake's got to stay. The meal's got to stay. I'm at a point in my life. Presents are gonna go because when I want something, I budget and buy it before. Like
True.
I've been saving up for an Apple Watch that I was gonna get for Christmas and have given to me. And I bought it yesterday because I couldn't wait. So yeah, I'm going without presents. The cake's got to stay. I'm 100% with Jay on that, and obviously the meal's got to stay. And by the way, if you're getting overrated sheet cakes, you need to go find a really nice bakery and find a really good cake. I mean, there's some great cake out there.
But I'm not the one giving the birthday cake.
Then you need to sit down and have a discussion with the crap that they've been serving up on your
But
birthday.
but here's the thing about the presents though, and it's especially when you have smaller kids. Now my kids are older, maybe I'll have grandkids or something. It was always great getting those handmade stuff from the kids stuff. So I mean that kind of they always enjoy doing that. So I'd hate to kind of lose that part of it. I could sacrifice the cake over that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So cake's got to stay. Presents. So presents got to go for you, Carney. Is that it?
Presents are gone, 100%.
Okay.
No
So
presents.
so
Yeah.
cake for Coop gets the boot. Presents for Carney. Miguel, what goes?
The cake has got to go because I think when you have a list of what's the greatest cuts of meat, when you have the greatest list of whatever it is, your wine, whatever, right? When you list the greatest desserts, cake is not even in the top 10, even if it's from a great bake. There's so many great other desserts that are out there. I mean, creme brulee. I mean, you could go on and on about all these great desserts that they have. The Italians do it great. You ever go to an Italian bakery? Good Lord, there's a million things over there I'd rather have than cake. Presents are staying. Birthday meal is staying. But I understand, John, there's some great bakeries out there. But on the list of 10 best desserts, cake wouldn't even break my top 10. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
easy for me. Cakes are out.
Okay. All right. So I thought really long and hard about this because I thought this was a really hard topic for me because I really do enjoy getting gifts and I really enjoy my birthday meal each year. So I mentioned earlier that I wanted a steak, but my wife and I are actually going to Cane Rosso. It's a pizza place here in town. For my birthday, they have a patio, and so we're gonna do that. So I'm excited for that opportunity because I love that pizza. They have extraordinary Neapolitan pizza.
Nice.
Really stoked about that. So, um, the I really look forward to my birthday cake each year because I don't eat very much cake. I don't eat very much sweets actually. It's not really I don't have a sweet tooth. I rather have something savory, something spicy. Um, but I look forward to my carrot cake every birthday. I have a carrot
Nice.
cake every birthday, and it's one of my favorite desserts. I'm more of a pie guy, as people know, but myself. But carrot cake is definitely something I look forward to every birthday because I that's pretty much the only time I get it. And I absolutely love it. The meal is very special to me because it's sharing. It's not just the meal; it's also sharing it with people. So it had to be presence for me because it is aw shucks and aw moment as this is. It's moments like these that are the gifts for me. Like we've mentioned my birthday a couple times on the show, and I've made a big deal about it being my birthday show. But at the same time, we're these are you guys are three of my sincerely truest friends, not just in the business but in my life, and I appreciate these moments, and that to me is a present. You can't wrap it up, you can't put a bow on it, but it's still a gift that gives to me, and so I even though if I'm giving traditional presents to the boot, I'm still going to get gifts like these, and to me that's more special than anything else. And so I guess I have to say the presents probably get the boot for me.
This has turned
Oh,
into a
What
Hallmark movie.
Yeah, I was going to
what if
say.
well, I
it
was
was a
going to
Chevy?
say,
What if
just remember that the other two people here aren't ever going to bring any cake. So I'm the only one, and I know all the bomb bakers. So.
what if someone brought you a Chevy Chase cake?
They're not really friends then.
What if they got you a cake from Bobby V's restaurant?
Come on, man. No, no.
By the way, like Miguel said that the Italians don't do cake. Their most famous dessert, that little 3-layer with the 3 different colors, that's
Oh,
cake.
oh,
That's a cake.
Yeah, but you
oh.
can't make it a birthday cake. But it is a cake. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
kind of.
You think those
Yeah.
Italians can't turn that into a full-size cake? Yeah. Think
They
again.
can. Yeah, they probably can. Good stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was our One Must Go segment. Of course, it's always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana and distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabey and Byron lines. So smoke one today and start living united. So continuing with the birthday theme, gentlemen, I mentioned that, it's moments like these, it's memories like these that are the gift to me that keeps on giving. So what is one of your like if you could, John mentioned spending, every birthday in the world's most awesome place in Walt Disney World, but what is if you could pinpoint what is one of your favorite birthday memories? Do you guys have a favorite birthday memory, like one thing that stands out, like on your birthday and celebration of your birthday? What was your favorite birthday and memory? And in the spirit of the fact that most of us just booted presents, what was a gift that you got that you just, was one that stands out in memory? So, memory and gift. So Coop, I'm going to go to you first on this.
It was my 17th birthday. I got a car from my dad.
What kind of
It
car
was
was it?
a 74 Dodge Dart.
Ooh.
Great car. Great party. Kind of like the Al Bundy car, but it was actually a pretty cool car to have. It had no power steering. It had no power windows. It had a nice engine though. And it was great that, my dad was a big car buff, so he wanted me to have a car, and I was very, you know, he after that it was my responsibility to take care of everything else with that car. So it wasn't like I was given a free ride with that by any means, but that was, and then, not to get sentimental, but when I got out of the hospital 2 years ago, it was a couple of days before my birthday. To be home with my family on my birthday, when I didn't know if I was going to get out of the hospital at one point, obviously that meant a lot. Even though I couldn't smoke that day or anything like that, which was disappointing, but the fact I got to spend that was special to me. So,
Awesome.
and I think we did a show that night too. I think we actually did our cigar.
Well, you tried to do a
that
show
night.
from the fucking hospital bed, and Aaron and I had to strangle you to keep you from doing it. So
Well, true story. True story. But that was after the first night. The first night in the hospital was the one that was the tense one. After that, I was like, but yeah, then I didn't realize that getting out of the hospital was gonna be worse than being in the hospital. So that was a whole other thing. But yeah, so
always the
but
case.
like I say, but you really do appreciate that you're able to spend that with your family, and your family's there for you during those times. So that was very special to me as well.
Awesome. Carney, what about you?
Man, my wildest birthday ever was my 30th birthday. Um, I don't have a lot of memories from that. I was at Mardi Gras
Oh, wow.
for a few days. Yeah, with one of my friends.
Oh wow.
He and I took on Bourbon Street for my 30th birthday. That was out of control.
Damn.
But in the opposite, probably one of the most memorable birthdays for me was my actual 21st birthday. I was down in Florida. I was in college, and my parents were down, and we just went out for like a casual dinner. My first legal drink was a pina colada, and I dumped it on the ground accidentally. And I had like one drink that night. We just kind of hung out, and that's a birthday that I very much remember. And I was cool. I wanted it that way. Everyone has crazy 21st birthdays. We got to go do this. We got to go do that. I'd been a part of many people's 21st birthdays. So it was fun for mine to just be just kind of on my own doing what we always did. So I thought that was that for me was a special memory. As I said, because it was just an innocent thing. It was it was nothing crazy. We just went out to like a modest dinner and just hung out. So that was a cool experience to do the opposite on my 21st, but I made up for it on my 30th.
There you go.
And now I can't do any of that stuff that much anymore. So I just kind of drink wine on my own and go to bed when I go to bed at midnight.
Yeah.
On my birthdays now. But yeah,
Yep.
that was a special one, man. That stands out. So it was nothing crazy about it. The birthdays that we have now, like I always go out to dinner with my parents. I take them out to dinner on my birthday. We go out to some place real nice, and we get high end everything, so it's kind of enjoyable. I like that. It's fun to kind of repay your parents and have experiences with them with that stuff. So as I said, but the 21st birthday was a special one for me because it was unremarkable, which was good.
Nice. Miguel?
Well, I would say one of the greatest, I don't know, presents or whatever would probably be my 30th. I'd mentioned earlier, my wife got me a watch, and we took a vacation together. And that was something that was really neat because I got to wear that watch.
What kind of watch was it?
It was a Citizen. It was a Citizen
Ooh.
watch, and it was the first watch I really had that had any kind of meaning or anything behind it, And I wore it for many years and really enjoyed it. But it was for my wife, and it was celebrating my 30th birthday. But probably my most memorable birthday was go back to William Cooper here, pulling the heartstrings a little bit. In 2007, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, right at the end of the year. And so my first birthday in April of 2008, I was turning 28. I was at home recovering from the 2 surgeries that I had, and laying in bed and celebrating the birthday at home. My wife, made presents, and they made little banners and made, a cake and a pie and all this. that was just a really great memory of being able to say, all right, I made over that hump and I'm celebrating my 20th birthday at home, not in a hospital. And it was just a great experience. And that's a birthday I will always remember.
Nice.
And a time that, that was very challenging, but turned out to be kind of a blessing to be with my family, you know?
Oh, wow. Beautiful. I'll tug at the heartstrings on mine too, because I mentioned about moments like these being gifts, and my favorite gift over the years was my gift last year. That was my wife and I welcoming our second son, Jacob, 2 days before my birthday, and I got to bring him home on my birthday. So it was that was probably will always go down as the most memorable birthday gift for me, bringing our second son home, and it was wonderful. It was our house was a disaster as we were getting ready for a second child, and we were stressed and tense and lack of sleep, and everything. But being home with my two boys and my wife was just was an awesome gift for me. So I I will always remember that, and that was probably the most memorable gift that I got. But my favorite birthday memory though was also my 30th birthday. Now I didn't take on Bourbon Street like a champion like you are, but but similarly we had leaving my roaring 20s behind. My wife threw this incredible theme party of a Prohibition era party, so everyone was dressed in Prohibition era clothing, and we celebrated in true kind of F. Scott Fitzgerald fashion, and it was fantastic. We were listening actually to the World Series on the radio, which was just great for me, and I got to smoke some cigars, LFDs as it were, on my patio, and it was a great memory for me. Um, you know, celebrating my 30th birthday with some of my family and friends, and smoking cigars and celebrating in Prohibition type fashion. Probably one of the last times I dressed up too. It wasn't really a costume or anything. I wore a tux. So, because again, you know, it was a Prohibition era. So back when people actually still dressed nice, which was really cool. But I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun, and that was probably one of my favorite memories. So so this I'll kick off this next one too, because I think it's funny because it's also on that same patio as a couple of years later. Um, but your worst birthday moment. So your worst birthday, I think Coop already kind of alluded to his worst birthday
Yeah.
moment a second ago, but I'll kick it off here formally. So I went out to dinner with some friends and everything, and I decided to, as I always often do, host a cigar smoking session when I come back with some friends on the patio, and so I welcomed in some friends to come smoke some cigars with me, and it really it was probably the worst smoking experience I've ever had, because um, one of my friends, who's very polarizing in his right, decided that he would just in to a point from what we were talking about earlier, just debate everybody that was sitting around smoking cigars, talking very polarizing politics, and also being very combative, and talking about things that you don't necessarily talk about in public, like people's pay and what they were getting paid. It was at a time where we had just welcomed in our first son, so we finances were slim and thin, and he suggested to me that I should sell my cigars, and quit my job at the cigar industry if I was going to be a family man, and basically give up my passion in my life, and was very very adamant about that. And while a couple of my friends were trying to take my side, and I was just trying to enjoy a cigar, um, desperately trying to enjoy a cigar. It did not happen, but it was very, it was miserable. It was a miserable time. Luckily, I didn't take his advice. I didn't sell my cigars. I didn't get out of the cigar industry, and look where I am today. So, fuck you to him on that point, because here I am and celebrating my birthday with the three of you all. And it is midnight Central Time. So it is now officially my 37th birthday. So
Happy birthday,
Happy
brother.
birthday. Yep.
Hey, happy birthday.
thank you, thank you. So worst birthday moments. Coop, was the illness? Was that it? Was that it for you?
Yeah, that was it. I don't need to rehash that again, but yeah, it was definitely that.
Miguel, what about
It
you?
was that and the Padron moment. Unfortunately, losing Mr. Padron, the same day he birth. It was a sad day for the industry. So it kind of it dampened it, but you got to have great memories after that too.
Oh man, I wish I don't really have nothing negative. Kind of funny. There's a picture of me my family has when I was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I was holding a My Little Pony, and I had a birthday, and I invited everybody out to this really nice pizza restaurant, and we're all gonna hang out, drink wine, and eat pie, and everybody showed up with a My Little Pony present, and that was one of those
That's
things where,
awesome.
yeah, I was like 35 and I was like, Jesus, you guys, you know what I mean? But yeah, so cards, toys, everything. It was a My Little Pony themed party. It turned out to be. So yeah, man. So that was, but nothing too negative. Luckily, been very blessed, and 40 years on this earth, and hopefully have another 40 more.
Thank you. Oh man, My Little Pony. That's awesome. John, what about you? Do you have a terrible birthday moment you want to share?
No, I haven't had any really bad birthday moments. I'll just rehash that the 30th birthday in Mardi Gras was equally the craziest and wildest and best and worst all at the same time.
How did you feel the
So,
next day?
I was gonna say he
oh,
still
probably the
has the
worst.
hangover. That's why.
Yeah.
and the thing was, I was 30 at the time. I'm 36 now, and like from 30 to 30, like at 35 was the first year. I know everybody says just wait, it gets worse, but at 35 was the first year that I actually felt like I got older. Like until 35, and it was almost to that day. Like I could do everything I could always do, and then when I hit 35, I just couldn't do all the same things I could do. It's just my body said no. So it was a quick turnaround. It was maybe 2 days. Now it'd be like 2 weeks. It would be just brutal. So I probably a bad moment was turning 35. That was the first year that I felt like I'd aged.
Yeah, that you'd lost a step, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah, and like when I'm taking care of myself, I'm just the same. But the one moment you don't take care of yourself, you notice that step significantly. So that's probably 35 was probably my worst birthday, but it was a great birthday nonetheless. But the world the world became real to me at 35.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, this is always the time of the evening where I thank my guests or my guest or guests in this case for the time that they're giving to me. This is Sunday night, and while COVID is a very strong reality for all of us, as we've been talking about tonight, this is the time for family. John, you've had a long travel session, and you're back in your home state now. And Miguel, I know you're at home with your family's Coop, as I know as well. And so I recognize that this is a family evening, and for you to break away for a couple of hours to sit down and chat with me about things going on with your company, things going on in the industry, and having fun tonight talking about birthday stuff, I really do appreciate it. So thank you to the three of you gentlemen for giving me such time. I've only got a couple more questions, and then we'll sign off for the evening. But sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, it means the world to me. Thank you.
Anytime, brother.
So turning the page back to some serious notes in the cigar industry, obviously, I wanted to talk about obviously with the COVID repercussions, as it were, and the cancellation of the PCA trade show. We've talked a little bit about how Crowned Heads handled that and how LFD has handled that, obviously, and everything. So it's postponed till next year. Now TPE has been postponed to a later date, so into May, which puts it about 60 days before the scheduled time in which we would have PCA 2021. Now, it's still up in the air with COVID still being very much a strong reality, whether or not even TPE's postponement happens, or even if PCA 21 happens. But let's just say that it all goes to fruition. If TPE does happen as scheduled, what if you guys if there aren't aware of any plans, then please don't feel free to obviously feel free not to elaborate or anything. But Miguel, I'll start with you. Like is Crowned Heads planning on attending both shows, or just one, or is it still very much in flux?
I think we plan on doing all three shows. I mean, it's TPE. Then the following month, I'll see John down in the Dominican Republic at TAA. And then we have PCA a month after that. So we are in on all three shows. And TPE was a lot of fun. We did TPE for the first time last year. It was a great show. I enjoyed it very much. And that show is growing. So we do look forward to being involved in TPE. TAA is something we always look forward to. We usually do a cigar for them every year. And we always enjoy the TAA get together. And we're all in on PCA. We're a big supporter of PCA. That's why we did that trade show this year. That trade show involved Oliva, Rocky, Alec Bradley, and Crown Heads. Four of us are really, really big supporters of PCA. So you will see us at PCA absolutely 100%.
That's awesome. You know, speaking of TAA, Miguel, I do want to give a nod because Coop has been well documented as he has lost faith in TAA cigars over the years, but he has always
not
said
the gentleman that they
hold
do.
on, hold
Yeah.
on to your
Okay.
credit. We have always agreed. The two of us have always agreed. Always, and this is not just because you two gentlemen are on here. The three companies that continually and exceptionally put out the best TAA cigars each and every single year are Pete Johnson with Tatuaje, La Flor Dominicana, and Crown Heads with the Angels Anvil. So
Yep. Okay.
you guys always have put together the best projects and the best product out there for your TAA partners. And it definitely shows because the cigars that you guys put out each and every year are phenomenal. So that's awesome that you plan on attending. So yeah, I covered your butt, Coop. I had your back there.
Okay. I've been critical on the others though, so
I know.
that's a fair comment. Yep.
But it's awesome to see that you will be planning on attending all three. That's fantastic. John, what are LFD's plans? Are they still in flux, or do you plan on attending both or all three in this case, or what's the
So we've never participated in the TPE. It's not a show that historically is aligned with the large portion of our customer base. Is it changing? Absolutely. I don't think it's changing as an alternative to PCA. But I think that when you take two different entities, you've got the PCA, which is a nonprofit organization, and you have a for-profit organization, it changes the decisions that are made. So when a decision gets made, TPE is for the companies that attend in Premium Cigars. It's an affordable way to go and make some sales happen at a show. It's a different customer. You're going to see different customers. You may see some overlap, and I'll talk on that in just a bit. But it's an affordable show, and it's made that way because it's by a for-profit organization. Because if they didn't make money, they couldn't do the show. With PCA, it's non-for-profit. It's a fundraising effort, but we put on a much bigger footprint. It's huge. I mean, that we don't even fill the space up with the booths that we have at PCA. So I think TPE is growing its premium business at their show. One, out of demand, but two, I think even more importantly, they're growing the show because of an appearance lack of change or a lack of growth or a lack of maturation of what we want to see from the PCA show. But I still think to this time, PCA is the one that's premium cigar focused. That's all we do is premium cigar. For retailers that do business with us, they know we don't do a lot of deals. The reason we don't do deals is because we just don't make enough cigars. Most of our retailers wait for products, and it creates challenges for them. And we understand that. So for us to go to a TPE show now would not be something that's really in the works for us. We keep an eye on it and we monitor it, but we still have the majority of the every single person that we would interact with at PCA would be a place that we potentially could do business with or already do business. So we have a larger percentage of our customers that come to that. And then the TPE, that show's growing, but they're growing off of getting retailers that go to PCA or maybe go to TA or part of TA and part of the PCA. They're just bringing them over. So it's not a new customer that I don't already have an interaction with. So for me, and us as a brand, TPE right now isn't advantageous for us. It's super affordable. It's reasonable. They're doing a great job there. They're doing a lot of good things. I think the PCA can take a lot from that. But in its name, PCA is premium cigar focused, and we just see more of our retailers there. The people that we do business with, there's just a larger percentage. If 10 people walk by, we do business with 9 of them. At TPE, if 10 people walk by, we maybe do business with 2. And then the other 8, we probably wouldn't be looking to expand with, is we're just really not expanding accounts actively right now. So I like what they've been doing. I think there's a lot of good stuff with it. I'd like to go to the show sometime just on my own to watch it. But I think the TPE show has been growing out of an opportunity for them to create more revenue and create more profit because there has been areas that the PCA has been lacking. But I hope they make those changes, and they seem to be open to making changes and things to improve that show. It's still a great show. It's the premier premium cigar show in the world. So until it's not the premier premium cigar show in the world, that's where our focus will be.
Terrific. Coop, now TPE 2020 was actually the last trade show, and it was actually the first time that Cigar Coop actually covered TPE. Now, you've never been to TAA. Correct me if I'm wrong there, correct?
No, nor do they want me to go to TAA. I don't believe they want, because of the pricing stuff and everything. I don't think they want us hanging around there.
And there's
So
also it's really not a media
big enough trade
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and they have the TA has brought media down in the past. I know they've invited Cigar Aficionado in the past. I believe they still go. I'm not sure. But it's really not a media. It's not really advantageous to being media. Now, doesn't mean that it couldn't be or shouldn't be.
Right.
I think there'd be opportunity to have a media side of that, which is something that you know, maybe they'll look at in the future. I'm on the board there, so I don't think having media come in and promote it would be an issue. I don't think the media would have an issue staying out of closed door sessions and whatnot. But I think the media part would be an area where would definitely create some exposure to it. But in its current setup, it's not really advantageous to media. And you can tell that based off of what type of information really comes out of it. I mean, by Cigar Aficionado goes and they have the same information that you get.
Yeah, it's not enough to probably justify a trip.
Unless you change it and make it media, you know, where there's a media day and media works with the retailers and spend time with them, you know.
Unless they do national launches, there is what I'm kind of getting at. Then it would probably be more advantageous.
Yeah. So Coop, is the Cigar Coop brand, are you planning on attending both shows with them being so close together, or you know, are you going to be taking a different approach going into 2021?
We will be going to both trade shows, and I say we because we want to go to both. That's going to be up to you. I definitely want you for PCA, that's for sure. Given that I think you're going to have some companies doing TPE only, some companies doing PCA only, and then across, I think it's going to be important to be at both shows this year. And there may be more TPE coverage than I had last year. And how the model looks as far as how we have the product releases, it may end up being like a May to July product coverage thing that we're doing. You know, normally we do June to July. It may now that cycle may go longer. So I think it's gonna be important to be at both trade shows. The plan is, I think I've talked to you about this, Bear, is we're gonna add a third person to go to PCA with us this year. And the idea with that is we want, you know, we talked about we do need a third person. I think the interview piece is something we wanted to maybe hone in on, doing our style of interviews, right? That we haven't had an opportunity to do just because we have much bandwidth. So I think by starting to break in a third person for PCA this year, that's going to position us well. So we're planning on being at both shows this year for sure.
Terrific.
And like I said, yeah. So I think we should both be there, especially if you can make TPE this year, but definitely plan on PCA.
So the long combative nature between the cigar industry and the FDA has been well documented by Coop and other media sources over the past few years. And the premium cigar industry got a very large victory in the last couple of months with the FDA basically siding with the premium cigar industry and taking the substantial equivalence deadline and basically pushing it off indefinitely. The FDA actually even declaring that they actually don't even have the resources to put forth the regulation that they put down in the dimming regulations. This was a huge decision and a huge revelation for the premium cigar industry and where we all sit. And it's been documented on this show as well as on Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition as well. How I've been on record as saying that we probably won't see a company launch ever again like we did see with Ace Prime 2 years ago in 2019. And to that point, Ace Prime's launch in the grand extravaganza that it was actually, the first in a long time in terms of that large of an announcement, that large of coming out party, if you will. And so I said that probably would never happen again. Now with this new decision, do you feel, the three of you, I'm just interested to get your thoughts on this. Do you feel this opens the door for a potential another launch of some kind of company like that again here in the short and immediate future with this open door that we've got, or do you think that I'm still spot on with that opinion?
I don't think big launches. Look, I think our industry is pretty heavily saturated right now. I always say no matter what the atmosphere is, you're always going to end up with somebody who wants to get into the business, who wants to get into the industry. I mean, look at McAuliffe for an example. I mean, that's a guy who had no involvement in the cigar industry, and he came in pretty big and has opened up a lot of accounts in the country and has a well oiled machine sales force out there, right? And so I think there's always going to be guys like that who want to get in the industry. We've seen them come and go. I think brands like McAuliffe are here to stay. There's a lot of great guys over there. But I would always say that I thought too with the FDA, the way things were going, Ace Prime was probably going to be the last big launch. I don't know if we'll see one over the next 2 or 3 years, but I always believe that there will be big launches, that someone will come into the industry who want to be in business and will do what they can to make a big splash. So I do think you'll see it. I don't think you'll see it this year, next year, probably not for the next 2 or 3 years.
John, what about you?
I think you will see it. There's been a lot of changes and things in the industry this year. The FDA situation makes it easier, makes there less barriers to entry, and less uncertainty. There's still uncertainty there because they can still get the resources they need or whatnot. So I think you will see something. I think you'll see some splashes this year in 2021. I think the unique side of what Ace Prime had is the reason Ace Prime was, has been successful is because of their relationships with manufacturing side, the relationships with distribution channels, such as what they have with Crown Heads. So they actually have a sales force out there. So there's a lot of things that was made a little easier for them, and gave them a little bit, and I think success is still to be determined there.
Yeah.
But I think that the platform they had was a lot stronger because of the relationships they had. And it was, I would say that it would cost significantly less money for them to get started than it did like Al McAuliffe. Now, Al has, is very, very successful in other businesses. So it was, they've been successful and they were able to make the financial decisions, and now they're building a great team. So they'll be successful, but I think you will see, some new launches, and I think you'll probably see some really substantial things in 2021. Not tons, but I think you're going to see 1 or 2 real players in 2021 that show up and surprise some people.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow. Coop, what about you?
Yeah, and you guys can hear me okay. The internet did go down here for a minute. I'm in agreement. I don't think the door is closed by any means. I think there's always going to be someone who wants to get in the cigar industry. And like I said, I don't know if we'll see necessarily like an Ace Prime or McAuliffe, who have been the last 2 major launches that we've seen. But there's always someone who wants to get in the cigar industry. And there are ways that people can get into the cigar industry, let's say, even if it's a predicate world that we have to live in, because they can always buy up predicate blends and stuff like that and do it that way. So I don't like I said, I think we'll see a few. I think we'll see a few smaller launches this year, and maybe a couple years down the road, maybe we'll see the next McAuliffe Ace Prime launch come out. So I think we're going to be okay with that.
On this next question, Coop, I'm going to leave you out of it because I wanted to get the two perspectives of the gentlemen who are also on this panel tonight. But with the
Sure.
FDA's decision, that kind of opens the door a little bit for more creativity. As we, Coop, you and I have noted on our shows that there's been and understandably, this isn't a knock. There's been a downturn in terms of new product releases. Industry wide, because of FDA regulation and the fear behind that, and things having to have predicate and substantial equivalence aside and everything. So I'm interested to get from the perspective of Crowned Heads and La Flor Dominicana. Does this open up the door for the two companies, gentlemen, for perhaps to bring back some of that creativity and perhaps launch new blends? I mean, we had the 25th anniversary, John, but the last, and it's not even a regular production blend necessarily. It is a specialty release that doesn't come out all the time. But the Andalusian Bull was probably the last new release that you guys did that was somewhat regular production, I would say. But does this open up the door for La Flor Dominicana to actually potentially release new projects like we saw when you guys were doing Chapter 1, Capatoyo Dos, Lenox, La Vocada, etc.? Or do you guys feel like you have trying to continue with your tremendous portfolio that you already have?
So first of all, Andalusian Bull is a limited production item.
Limited production, that was the word.
To
Yeah.
think that's any type of regular type of mass-produced type product that's super limited. Part of the reason the last 3 years were really less involved in new releases per se were we got our butts kicked by that Andalusian Bull. Like that was really a substantial increase in demand, and we already had a significant increase anyway, so that was just on top of it. And that was right in the middle of us. Lido was doing about a 3-year project and expansion at the factory, which right before COVID we were starting to see that. We in January, February, my January was just as busy as my July this past year. So part of that slowdown in terms of the creativity that you see was because we were focusing on the expansion of the factory and focusing on getting to a more comfortable position with some of those items that you mentioned. For example, Andalusian Bull, Chapter 1, 2, Lenox, La Volcata, those are all products we're focusing on. So the 25th anniversary project, we talked a lot about this internally. I mean, part of that was why it was a little more quiet, was because we just had so much stuff going on to do a full, a full assault, and a full display and a full push on that really would have just put us in a challenging spot. So we actually had about 3 projects that we were working on for this year that will be moved into 2021. We have what the real thing with the FDA situation did is it truly allows us to comfortably make adjustments to predicate products. So for example, we're tweaking one of our lines right now where we're going to reblend it and rebrand it. So that's going to be kind of unique. So that's a cool project. That's not a project that we would have done without that. We started that project and we discussed that project internally the day after that ruling. So that's something that we wouldn't have been able to do. Taking something that was pre-existing and changing it was off the table because you needed it to be exactly what it was. So that's where you're going to see creativity, because we can truly come out with new blends, truly come out with new products, truly come out with new brands, instead of trying to rework something or reface something to look like it's something that it's not. So yeah, you're going to see a lot more creativity with it because the ability to do it's there, and the lack of concern of doing it has been diminished.
That's great to hear. Miguel, what about on the Crowned Head side?
We've continued. We obviously in the beginning of 2020, there was a lot of worry about the stuff that we had in the pipeline that we were working on, and with different things, COVID affected production in Dominican Republic more so than in Nicaragua. more so than probably Honduras. So, the factory that we work with in the Dominican, TLA, Ernesto's factory, hit a little harder with COVID because of the rules down in the Dominican Republic. So there were projects that we had to push off, but till next year. But this year we released a lot of great limited editions. We did a lot of great products for the retailers this year. And obviously the FDA, being the situation that it's in, gives us a little bit more leeway to do some creative things in 2021. That'll be the 10-year anniversary of Crown Heads is next year. So we had a lot of things we wanted to do. And obviously with the FDA coming through, it gives us a lot more ability, a lot more flexibility to do some creative things, to do some fun things. And we continue to kind of charge forward. I think right now retailers still want new things and different things. We know that it doesn't matter what industry it is. It's the beer industry, the cigarette industry, the food industry. Retailers like to have new items to show off. I mean, that is part of what keeps their business interesting, that keeps consumers coming in. And I think we've played a big part in that for a lot of our retailer partners. And so we look at this FDA ruling as a win. And I think companies like us, companies like Flor, companies that are kind of in our kind of ball field, gives us takes the handcuffs off a little bit and allows us to be creative. So I think looking forward over the next 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of promise. There's a lot of great things that we'll be able to do. And I think all of us will take advantage of that. And I think the trade shows over the next 2 or 3 years will be really interesting.
That's awesome. Coop, I actually will digress. I'll bring you into this question. Do you think overall, I mean, we just heard from 2 companies who said that they feel like the handcuffs, to use your term there, Miguel, have kind of been taken off a little bit, giving them a little bit of leeway on this. Do you think other companies will feel similarly, or do you think other companies will play it safe and still stand pat, considering that it hasn't gone away, but it certainly has opened up a window or a slight crack in the door?
Yeah, I think there will be some. I think there are some projects probably be released. That I think there are things that have been worked on in factories that haven't been released. So I think it's going to create some opportunities to get some products into market. And I think we're going to see a window for this in 2021 because this thing could still turn back around again. Mm-hmm. We don't know what the FDA is going to do, what their next move is going to be. We don't know what the administration is going to be. So I think there's going to be if there's some of these projects lying around and there's a chance to get them into market, I think the company's going to make an attempt to do it. I think they're going to be really careful about it. I don't think they're going to overdo it. But I also think that a lot of companies may be slowed down in 2020. It's an opportunity for them to do something in 2021. So I think you'll get this. We're going to see some. I think we're going to see some creativity. I mean, we've already heard of, just the fact that Fuente and Padron are doing a cigar, that's just something, again, that, we needed a shot in the arm for something like that for a long time, a project like that to cover. So, that's good for the industry. So I think but if something comes back early next year against the cigar industry, that's the only thing maybe I could be slowing it down again.
Yeah, fair point. Well, gentlemen, this leads us into our last question of the night, which is the curveball segment. And thank you all for hanging in there, and to our audience as well, who's stayed with us all tonight. It's been fantastic discussion. We've had some fun talking about birthdays, talking about stuff going on with Crown Heads and La Flor Dominicana, of course, and with Cigar Coop. So really, really tremendous having you gentlemen on. So this, since we've learned a little bit more about each other, and the 3 of us, the 4 of us actually know each other quite well. I wanted to ask this question for all 3 of you. And again, this is my curveball segment, so it's meant to be a little bit of fun. So there's 3 jobs on the table. The national sales director of Crown Heads, the national sales director for La Flor Dominicana, and the head of Cigar Coop. So here's the question: whose job, and you can't pick your own, whose job would you take, and why? If you had the choice.
God.
Oh, that's.
Man.
I'm in the impossible situation here.
That's a tough one. That's a really, really tough one. I think, look, I don't want to be in cigar media. It's so tough. I mean, I've been trying to do those shows. I don't think I would ever want to do that full time. I think what you guys do is incredible. So I love La Flor. I love their product. I love their culture. Obviously, they put out just such incredible product, and they're just one of those companies that you respect, and you respect the hard work that goes into that brand. And I feel very blessed to have been with some incredible companies over the years, and Flor is just another incredible company. So I feel very blessed to be with Crown Heads. But if I had to pick one, you know, something God forbid happened to Flor or Jon Carney there in Crown Heads, and I would definitely step in for Jon. Jon's a wonderful guy and a great company.
Awesome.
I don't want to be in media either. I mean, it's long nights, it's late hours. I mean, you all have other jobs at the same time. We all have one job, which is great. So I like having just one job. That's a good thing. I already feel like over COVID that you know, the relationship with I mean, the last 3 shows I've done, I think, have been with Miguel. So I feel like we're already like
With each other, we can do each
like
other's
trading
job.
places anyway. So yeah, I think Crown Heads would be a good spot. I said they're good people over there. A lot of history in the industry, and exciting stuff they're doing. And as I said, I'm going to give Miguel a cool event program next year. So yeah, Crown Heads. I said we're already kind of trading places. So it is what it is.
Coop,
Oh, you put me in the worst position.
do you want me to go ahead of you? Would that make you feel better?
Go ahead of me.
Okay.
Go ahead of me. Yeah.
All right. This is a very impossible decision for me too. So this was very difficult. I put it on the table, and always with my curveball segment and with the one must go, I always answer the question as well. So I very rarely do I take myself out of it. So I put myself in the tough spot too. But again, this is meant to be fun and everything. And there's absolutely positively no way that I could head Cigar Coop. I've seen that man in the marathon that he does, and I've seen how he is. He's when we do trips together,
You don't make money.
He goes to bed after me. He gets up before me, and he's working constantly. And while I do work hard for him when I do go to trade shows with him and other events that we've covered together, I couldn't keep up. There's no way. There's just absolutely no way.
Amazing. Yeah.
As Jon said, we both have other jobs. I don't know how he does it. It just I get exhausted every time I think about the work that Coop puts into it. This is an impossible decision for me because I respect the 2 of you, Jon and Miguel, so much, and I respect the company so much, and they're 2 of my absolutely favorite companies in the world, and in this industry specifically. So this is a very difficult decision for me. But you know, as I mentioned in previous times, you know, the reason that I'm in this industry, you know, I had my very first premium cigar when I was 18. But the reason that I'm here today is my very first experience at a cigar event. I went to my very first premium cigar lounge. I walked into the middle of an event, and the Silver Fox, Jack Sandlin, was the rep representing that company that day, and that company was La Flor Dominicana. And I thought I was just so cool because I was going in to buy a Romeo and Julieta, and those cigars are fine. But he turned me on to La Flor Dominicana, and the rest is history. And with sincerest respect, Miguel, for the great work that you and John Huber and company all do at Crown Heads. The job that I would take in a heartbeat would be work for the legend of Lito Gomez and John, although I would not do it as well, even though John is younger than me. There is no way I could do it as well as either of you. So, but I would take
appreciate that answer. I appreciate that answer. Come do my job for a week, and you'll be begging to run Cigar Coop.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Especially after the Andalusian Bull hit #1, I'm not sure if I would have wanted your job at that moment either. But or when Crown Heads does capture the #1, because I do believe that that's coming sometime in our future for sure. So I don't want to be the head of any cigar company when that blessing hits.
That's a good curveball right there.
All right, Coop. Took one for the team there.
So I can't be like a subcontractor and like go to both. I mean, it's a very tough decision because they're 2 great companies. They're 2 companies with different companies. They have really great core values. So, you know, either one of them, and it would probably be better. I would probably go to La Flor just because they've been around longer. And I'm always typically when I've taken a job, it's always I've kind of look at a company and how long they've been in business for. So I usually weigh that very heavily, I guess. But let me tell you, if I had an opportunity to go work for Crown Heads in Miguel's job, I mean, I'd do it. You know, I'd welcome the opportunity for that. I don't think I'm a national manager type either, to be honest with you. So, yes, I do sales in my day job, but it's very different than what these guys do. So, but yeah, I'll probably go Flor there again with the due respect to Crown, which would be an enormous opportunity.
The Flor has an incredible track record. I mean, they have been around, and they're one of those brands that started out as Los Libertadores and turned into La Flor, and are one of the most respectable brands in the industry. It's incredible.
It was splitting hairs, Miguel. It really was.
Listen, I totally understand.
And I'll echo.
Yeah,
go ahead, Coop.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You go.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'll give a nod to Quentin Thor, who's in our chat, and he said I've met both these guys in person, and there's not much better in the industry. I'll totally agree with that. Top notch all day. I'll echo that.
But he said before that, he goes, so it's done. They're switching places tomorrow.
That would be a good exercise to have two national sales managers switch jobs for a month.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness, that'd be crazy. But I echo that sentiment, Quentin, but I will also throw Coop in there. The three of the top notch people in the industry, and I'm blessed to have all three of you on tonight. And it has been absolutely an incredible blessing to have you on my show, to call the three of you friends, to celebrate my birthday in the finest class that I could possibly imagine. So thank you to the three of you guys. This is a memory that I will never forget. It'll go in there in my memory bank for best birthday memories for a long time to come. And I from my depths of my heart, sincerely cannot thank you enough. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
So for all of our audience out there, we really appreciate you as well. If you're checking us out on Facebook Live, check out our upcoming guests on our Facebook page, ELOSOFUMAR. We've got a list of upcoming guests coming to you on there, so be sure to check it out. We've got some fantastic guests. Jason Loyce, Tim Wong will be on board for his third appearance on ELOSOFUMARTAKES, celebrating our third anniversary on the 8th of November. Justin Andrews of General Cigar, Sam Spencer of McAuliffe will be on the 15th as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the movie Gladiator.
Isn't that movie's almost older than Sam?
Yeah. Right. That's one of the things I'll definitely be talking about for sure. And we're also going to have a double dose of Alec Bradley. Alec and Bradley will be on my show, as well as Alan Rubin in the coming weeks too. And then for my 150th show in December, date to be determined, but I will be having Nick Perdomo on it as my guest for my 150th take. I'm really excited for that. So check out all our upcoming guests. Be sure to download, subscribe, and review on our YouTube channel, which is ELOSOFUMAR as well, or wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure you definitely comment, download, subscribe, and review. If you already are a subscriber, don't forget to unsubscribe, but please don't forget to resubscribe. That helps my numbers so I can continue to build great relationships and bring on tremendous people like my three guests tonight. So thank you to all who tuned in. We thank you for all your likes, shares, and comments, and we'll see you next time. So guess what, everybody? Live from the HF Barcelona studios of Euless, Texas. This was ELOSOFUMARTAKES, our 142nd take. I'm Bear Duplessis as always. And guess what, everyone? We'll see you next time.